Alarm clock. Highland Radio.
Gregory, good morning. Hey,
Good morning, sunshine.
Oh, you have plenty to talk about today. I know you do every day, but I know, come here.
Tariffs.
On a lighter note, do you know, yesterday, right, I went over to the gym and this lady, Josie, she claimed me as her gym husband.
Oh, lovely.
So I says, you must be my gym wife then. Is that okay to do?
Yes, I'm sure. You're both consenting adults.
Yeah,
Yes,
we are.
No problem then. So you can do whatever you like.
That's all right.
So,
and I says, I must
he's gone
ask
on your
Greg
honeymoon?
Hughes, and she says, is he the boss? I says, he's my daddy.
Come here.
What?
I can't believe you've got another one.
Another daddy?
No, another wife.
And it's great. I didn't know you could have such things. Wait till I go home. What's this? What about this gym wife?
Move country and you can have as many as you like. All right, Lee, have a great Thursday.
I'll not be going to America anyway, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure. Well, why not? It's going to be cheaper, potentially. We'll discuss that next hour.
We'll listen to you later.
All right, Lee, take care of yourself. Lee Gooch is back with his last naughty alarm clock of the week tomorrow morning at 6:30. We have a lot to get through on the 9 till noon show. But first, let's get a news update. And it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Taoiseach just says a calm response is needed to Donald Trump's tariffs. The US President last night announced a 20% penalty on all goods imported from the EU. In his Liberation Day announcement at the White House, he promised economic freedom for American workers. However, it means Irish exporters, including those in the food and drink sectors, will face tougher competition from those north of the border who are facing tariffs of just 10%. Speaking outside government buildings, Taoiseach Simon Harris said the response needs to be calm.
We need to keep the period of uncertainty and turbulence as short as possible. It was absolutely clear President Trump wanted this big moment last night. He got it. Big charts and all. That happened in the Rose Garden. That bit's done. What we now need is the maturity of actually sitting down in a room and finding a way forward that's good for the US economy, good for the EU economy, and that then ultimately is good for Ireland.
Midlands North West MEP Kieran Mullally has urged the Taoiseach to immediately publish the Gaeltop housing blueprint, highlighting the urgent need for planning reforms. Speaking in the European Parliament, he argued that the delay threatens both housing provision and the survival of the Irish language in regions such as Donegal. Mr Mullally says unchecked property acquisitions are displacing young Irish-speaking locals and warned that discriminatory planning policies risk the permanent loss of the Irish language in Gaeltacht areas.
If planning continues to be granted without restrictions and there is no positive discrimination towards Irish speakers, there's a real risk now of losing the Irish language forever in locations like Galway, Kerry and Donegal. We need positive planning policies that favour the natives, and we must ensure young people with fluent Irish are not priced out of their communities.
Donegal County Council is to hold a civic reception to recognise 100 years of continuous political representation on the council by the Blaney family. Neil Blaney was first elected to the council in 1925, a seat that continues to be held to this day by the Blaney family. Keisha Conley has more.
Neil Blaney was first elected to Donegal County Council as a Sinn Féin councillor in 1925 before joining Fianna Fáil, and was elected to the Dáil in 1927, where he served until 1948. His son Neil T. Blaney took over his council seat, retaining it until 1957 before also making his way to the Dáil and European Parliament, holding a number of ministerial positions during his tenure. Neil T.'s son Harry was co-opted onto the council, followed by Niall Blaney, who held the seat until his election to the Dáil in 2002, and then the Seanad, where he continues to represent Donegal. Current councillor Liam Blaney is the third generation of the Blaneys to hold a council seat, having first been elected in 2003. The council has agreed to liaise with the family to secure a suitable date for a civic reception on foot of a motion put forward by councillor Donal Coyle to recognise what he says is an unparalleled contribution to public life.
Weather now largely dry and sunny, although breezy, and a freshening easterly wind. Highest temperatures of 13 to 17 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Choose technology. Choose versatility. Choose experience. Karcher pressure washers. Now available at your local hardware and electrical retailer. Choose Karcher.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show here on Highland Radio. It's great to have on board, or great to have you on board for another Thursday. And we've lots to talk about. We'll be covering the tariffs in a very understandable way, I hope, for me, that is. It's going to have an implication on us. We don't know what it is yet. We're not going to over-exaggerate or underplay it either. We're just going to play it straight down the middle and see what the implications might be. We're going to talk to people in the business of exporting and importing. And, of course, there's a unique situation for us in that now potentially we've got 2 tariff levels on the island of Ireland. 10% in Northern Ireland, 20% in the Republic. But then again, the Northern Ireland is somewhat tied into import duties as it relates to the EU, so it's going to get very, very messy. But theoretically, we have an area of the island which is at a competitive advantage. Could we see businesses moving to the north to export at lower tariff rates to the United States? I don't know. But anyway, we'll tease all that out over the course of the next wee while. Want your views on that and anything else you want to talk about. Maybe there's an issue in your area that you think we should be talking about, or something that's important to you, or you want to pass on a bit of good news, maybe something very positive has happened for you, or an act of kindness. The lines are open for anything that you wish to share with us. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number. If you are contacting us from outside the Republic, 0035386 60 25,000. If you want to give us a call, it's 07491 25,000, and emails coming to us at comments@highlandradio.com. We'll get to the tariffs in a bit, but we're going to start, as we always do, with the local papers, and there's many out on a Thursday. The local community living in Clondallen, Rathmullen and surrounding townlands say they are relieved that a planned gun dog breeding and training facility in the area has been refused planning and permission on appeal to An Bord Pleanála. This is in the Tyrconnell Tribune. Donegal County Council granted conditional planning permission in January last year for the construction of a single-storey dwelling house and domestic garage, as well as a commercial gun dog training and breeding facility and all associated site works. The permission was granted to Anne Sullivan and Alan Dolan, care of Alan Curran Architects, Donegal Town, and the planning application stated that among the purposes of the centre was to breed and train pups for the American market, where some 3 to 5 year old service dogs can fetch prices of up to €75,000. But the planning in its current form anyway, has now been rejected by An Bord Pleanála, and the paper reports that people are pleased with that. The Donegal News front page this morning, a Donegal nurse has told of how she was living in a state of fear and feeling suicidal following a sustained campaign of harassment over a 12-month period by her neighbour. Rebecca McCollum said she still looks over her shoulder and continues to attend counselling following the harrowing series of incidents perpetrated by Frances Lynn, which began shortly after she moved into her home in Letterkenny. Mrs McCollum delivered a powerful victim impact statement at Letterkenny District Court on Monday of how the actions of Lynn have not only affected her, but her wider family. The full story on the front of and inside the Derry People Donegal News today. On to the Derry News, and a Derry parent has been left frustrated by the decision by several schools to host their confirmation ceremony at a time that required numerous parents to request time off. The parent was one of many that had to request time off to attend confirmation of pupils of Nazareth House, Longtower and Ballyogry primary schools. They said, as far as I was aware, all the confirmations and first communions were all held at the weekend. My child's confirmation was on the 30th of January at 1 p.m, which meant that my partner, child sponsor, and I had to take the day off work. I questioned why this was, and the teachers present at the meeting confirmed that it was the case, that it was in the teaching hours and that the teachers won't do any events outside of their school teaching hours now. So that's in those schools. I wonder, is this going to become a new norm whereby confirmations would take place during effectively school hours, Monday to Friday, and during the school clocking time? Or is this just an isolated incident here? Is this specific to the north? Is it also something we could see happening in the south? Maybe you have a comment on that. Get in touch with us. The Farmers Journal today. Radical TB overhaul proposed. A radical overhaul of the TB eradication programme by the Department of Agriculture could result in sweeping changes to the current regime if adopted. The department's plan, which was tabled at the recent TB forum, proposes additional testing as well as changes to the rules on animal movements and disease compensation. In a major tightening up of the rules around cattle movement, the department proposed that the sale of cows from high-risk herds would be prohibited for 3 years after the herd has gone clear of TB. Controversially, it also suggests that herds in which TB reoccurs could be banned from selling breeding stock on the open market until cohorts of the infected animals are culled. It is a clear signal that the department wants to encourage additional culling of cohort animals. It also proposed that no compensation be paid in the case of relapse herds for the retention or purchase of high-risk animals. So maybe you're in the farming community, as many of you are, and that might have an impact on you. I think maybe more so down the country, but not exclusively. Right, on to the nationals. Trump upends decades of US trade policy with sweeping global tariffs. He was in the Rose Garden last night in America, of course, in the grounds of the White House, 9 o'clock our time, 4 o'clock their time. He came out and he said that this is a new dawn for the US. It is a gamble because they don't really know how this is going to work. If you watched the statement in the Rose Garden, he talked of tariffs previously, which actually had quite a negative. I was looking up from various sources, by the way. I was looking up how tariffs impacted. Politically, they're actually not really very good because when tariffs were introduced in the 19th and then the early 20th century, isn't it? There was a wipeout of the parties that introduced them. So whether they're financially sound, politically sound, certainly historically, they haven't worked well for whomever introduced them. But reading on here, after US President Donald Trump's unveiling of sweeping tariffs last night, attention will switch to Brussels with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen when she outlines the EU's response in an early morning statement. I don't believe she announced any additional tariffs this morning. I missed that. Mr. Trump fired the long-promised first shots in what may become a global trade war with his announcement of sweeping tariffs in front of an audience of political and business figures, including workers wearing hard hats and overalls in the Rose Garden of the White House. Imports from the EU will be hit with a tariff of 20%. That's across the board. Anything going from Ireland into the US now has a 20% tariff. The Republic of Ireland, that is. Which is what he had been expecting. While the UK will face a tariff rate of 10%, other countries will face higher tariffs. So there's a base rate, everyone, 10%. Now, they describe these as tariffs charged to the US, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. But what they've actually done, and you wonder, is this really a starting point for negotiations? They have taken... It's simple, but it's quite complicated. They have taken the value of imports into the United States. Say it was from Europe, the value of the imports into the United States, and then the value of the exports from the United States to the EU, and they divide the value of the exports into the value of the imports, and that is where they're getting these tariffs from. So as far as I can determine, so whilst they say China is 67%, it's not necessarily that they are charging tariffs that reach that figure. It's they have divided exports into imports, and that's the deficit effectively between the two. And then they've applied a tariff half of that percentage across the board, or a 10% basic. So that's what they've done. So it sounds to me maybe this is a starting point for negotiations. I don't know. Material released by the White House last night suggested that pharmaceuticals may be covered by the so-called reciprocal tariffs, which could be considered a relief to Ireland. I don't believe that to be the case, actually, and I'm not wishing to contradict the journalists of the Irish Times, but there are subsections in the documentation that Donald Trump released. And as far as I was able to determine, in the next few days, we'll see whether I'm right or the Irish Times are right, there is a provision in Section 4, or is it Section 3, for additional industry-specific tariffs. So at this point, I wouldn't be saying few pharmaceuticals are out of the loop, because I believe there is provision in the next couple of days for industry-specific. Don't forget, he also referenced in that speech, he referenced the fact that in the event of a war or some major outbreak or what have you, that the United States does not produce enough pharmaceuticals to protect its pharmaceutical products to protect its nation. So I would be of the view that in the next couple of days there will be a specific pharmaceutical tariff, which would be very troubling for us. Reading on here, Mr. Trump has previously said that the pharma sector could be subjected to specific dedicated tariffs, though there was no mention of this in his speech. I would also contest that there was actually quite a strong mention to this, not specifically to tariffs. But anyway, he said the tariff rates had been arrived at by calculating the total tariff and non-tariff barriers other countries charged US imports and then halving this rate. He called it the kind reciprocal. He said the EU imposed total tariff and non-tariff barriers amounting to 39% on US imports. They rip us off. But as I say, at least in some of the figures, if you divide the US exports into the imports from that regional country, you do arrive at that percentage. So what are the ramifications? Already the US stock markets have taken a big hit. And also, obviously, everyone's watching on going, right, this is changing the whole face of the market on the globe. It's not insignificant. And it's already potentially having an impact on the likes of your mortgage, especially if you're a tracker mortgage holder, because this is in the Independent now. Tariffs being imposed by US President Donald Trump may stay plans for a European Central Bank rate cut later this month. The ECB had been expected to announce its seventh rate cut on Thursday, April 17th, but the Governing Council may hold off to see what impact the tariffs have on the Eurozone economy, leaving the decision on a knife edge. ECB President Christine Lagarde, speaking on the radio, said yesterday that inflation in the Eurozone was now close to the ECB's target, but there was huge uncertainty around how the tariff would affect Eurozone economic growth, said Ms. Lagarde, who was in Dublin to receive an award. So we export 72 billion from this country out to the United States. So, you know, if there is an impact on those exports, it is going to be felt. You know, when you talk about the wiggle room that we have, you know, 15 billion, you know, that seems like it is awful lot of money, but, you know, that might be a surplus or money we can put away, or, you know, the usual terminology for it. But if we start to see that 72 billion chipping away, it might have the bottom line impact on us. Not as much coverage as we'd like to see, but certainly some coverage of the protest taking place outside the Dáil yesterday. We know some hard-working parents took time out of their day and were able to find carers or maybe someone from the household stay back to look after their children as they went down and slept out overnight as part of World Autism Day, or at least to coincide with it, seeking spaces for their children, confirmed, hopefully as quickly as possible, at Little Angels School in Letterkenny. But it was a national protest, and there were hundreds there. Parents of children who cannot access school places appropriate, which is critical, appropriate for their needs, their additional needs, have staged a 24-hour protest outside Leinster House. The overnight sleep out coincided with World Autism Day yesterday and comes just over a month after a similar action outside the Department of Education. Protesters chanted and held up placards yesterday as a series of speakers told their personal stories to the large crowd, often involving increasing stress and repeated rejection notifications. Obviously, a number of parents who are affected by this, as their children were told there was no place for their children in September at Little Angels schools. They're making the way back. We'll touch base with them at some point this morning. There were some meetings, some conversations, and we'll see if they feel enough was achieved yesterday, maybe to give them a bit of breathing space to drop their shoulders and know that their children will be okay as it relates to a school place. The Sun this morning, two men were last night being quizzed over that 2.2 million cannabis seizure in East Donegal. The pair were arrested after Revenue and Customs recovered the drugs from tractor tyres in Lifford. It's understood the duo were in the pay of a cross-border crime gang, They were under the radar and had never come to the attention of Gardaí before. It's believed the drugs were destined for the Irish market, but also into the north. And the pair have also been classified as facilitators for that gang. The probe is being run by investigators from Revenue, the Garda National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau, and the Donegal Divisional Drugs Unit. One source told the paper these two individuals were being used by a criminal network to store drugs. They were approached because they weren't known to Gardaí and weren't linked to any organised crime. But the drugs, it seems, being stored in tyres, in wheels. And if you look at the pile of drugs, and we were talking yesterday about the proliferation of cocaine in Donegal and across the northwest and across the country, like it's, for those presenting with an addiction, it's going to be the number one drug soon. And you wonder, well, you don't wonder, we know, don't you? How does it get into the area? Well, there you go. Catfishing. I'm not sure if you've ever been a victim of it or if it's something you'd want to talk about with us. But anyway, catfishing could become a criminal offence under a new bill that aims to punish anyone impersonating another person using fake photos online. This is the Star. Under the proposed law, a person who impersonates another online in a way that causes alarm, distress or harm either to the impersonated person or someone else could face 5 years in prison. The bill also empowers the courts to impose non-contact and exclusion orders to protect victims. Fianna Fáil Senator Fiona O'Loughlin reintroduced the bill 2024, which proposes to make catfishing a criminal offence. Why would someone be able to impersonate you online, deceive others using your photos or same, and face no legal consequences, she said, which I think is pretty, it's a fair enough point. Lastly, this morning, gaming platform. This is for parents out there whose children use Roblox. It's very, very popular, especially sort of from age 7, 8 onwards, but maybe even a bit younger. But gaming platform Roblox has announced new safety tools allowing parents to block people from their child's friend list and block individual experiences on the popular site. It is also introducing insights to show parents which games and experiences their children have spent the most time on. Roblox said it aims to give greater flexibility to parents to manage their children's activity. We just have to start using these tools, I suppose. It follows a raft of major updates last year after reports criticised the firm's approach to safety. Matt Kaufman, Roblox's chief safety officer, said we are constantly improving safety systems. He also said something controversial last week. I think he said if parents don't know what their kids are doing on Roblox, they should delete the app. Something along those lines. I don't want to misquote him, but I don't think he's listening anyway. All right, busy morning in the papers. Anything there catch your ear? Let us know. 086 60 25,000.
Daily newspapers are courtesy of Cosgrove, Centra and Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Hello, I'm David Foley, medical herbalist. Are you suffering with stress, anxiety, insomnia? Then ask for Irish Botanica Peace and Calm, a traditional herbal remedy. Irish Botanica Peace and Calm has a naturally relaxing effect, ideal for stress, insomnia, jet lag and pre-exam anxiety. Call us a natural way, Letterkenny Shopping Centre for more information.
For strong, unique, weather-resistant homes, choose Cedral Exteriors. Our fibre cement roof slates and wall cladding ranges are built to last for generations, exceeding EU quality standards. Members of Guaranteed Irish, our products are locally made and beautifully designed, offering long-term peace of mind. Visit cedral.ie. Cedral Exteriors. Strength guaranteed.
Stop everything! iMotors is bringing you the biggest used car event of the year. From Thursday, April 10th to Saturday, April 12th. We've got over 250 quality used cars. Every brand, every engine type, and a deal with your name on it. Buy any car and spin the wheel. You're guaranteed to win €500 or €1,000 off. Plus, every car comes with up to 12 months warranty. 3 days only. Get down to iMotors and drive away happy.
iMotors. Fearless generation.
Being a grown-up means Paul has to buy his own Easter egg from Aldi this year. But it also means he can get exactly what he wants. A specially selected Ripple egg. And a Roisin's honeycomb egg, made in Ireland, for dessert. Plus, 2 specially selected Belgian truffle-filled eggs, which he's now hiding in the garden, because it's all about the kids, really. Good food, good mood from Aldi.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time is 24 minutes past 9. Joined on the programme now by our historian, Dr. Joe Kelly. Imagine why, Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Imagine why good him, Greg, agus the rock good morning to yourself and to all your listeners out there in Highland Radio.
You, like many of those listeners, were watching on last night. Your assessment of Donald Trump's statements and its potential ramifications?
Well, look, firstly to say for yourself, Greg, you've always been talking about the what if. What if the Irish companies that have been brought in from America that exist here, have a base in Ireland, were to leave in the morning, or if there was to be a recession, or, for example, like we have now, tariffs, what would that do to our economy? And you've been asking that question for a long time. And it was going to happen at some stage. This is the reality, and it's not going to get any better. It's a reality that faces this government and the next number of governments we're going to have. The policy in America has changed. And for Trump, irrespective of the tariffs, which will cause difficulties, no doubt about that in this country, Trump is determined to bring back industry to America. If you go to America, there's 90,000 empty factories. This is what he has inherited as a president of America. Like him or not, this is what he's staring at. America can't fund itself. It is massively in debt. This is what he's facing as president of America. And so obviously, apart from his own personality or people's views on him, he has an economic challenge in front of him. And he's taking steps that any right-minded president or Taoiseach would make to preserve their own country.
It is a gamble, Joe, though. I mean, there's no guarantee that these tariffs will work. I mean, let's just put it like this. If you're an American, how long does it take for those 90,000 factories to become operational? How long does it take for the production of other items within America to be ramped up? Like instantly, overnight, American people are waking up. The cost of healthcare, we know that that's crazy, but they're waking up where everything that they buy that comes from outside the United States is at the very minimum 10% higher. You know what I mean? Like it is yes. They that pay in the first instance.
Yeah, but see, that's the small picture, and that's the short-term picture. And in doing this, Trump is playing the long game here. That's what I believe, and he sees a much bigger picture. And when I say Trump, his advisors. It's not about repatriating right away companies from Europe or from Ireland back to America. This is about ensuring that any future development of companies, that they stay in America and they build up what they might lose in the next 5-10 years to Ireland or Europe. So just for example, drill, baby drill, he's been saying now build, as in factories and things like that. And Apple, SoftBank, Oracle, OpenAI, these different companies in America have committed to spend $500 billion rebuilding their industry in America. He's already suggested that he granted a government grant of $600 billion to develop AI in California. So what he's trying to do is, it's very basic at the moment, but long term, he's saying, look, I'm going to rebuild the industry.
But I get where you're coming
America.
from, but now you're talking about sort of high-end, high-tech jobs, the type of jobs that actually in this country we have to import people in to conduct. The United States doesn't necessarily have a population that is ready to work at the top end of IT. We should be talking about combine harvesters, cars, all that type of stuff, but that is going to take a long time to kick in. The midterms are next year, Joe. This is a big gamble, and not necessarily. I mean, it's an awful lot to ask a population of 360 odd million to buy into a 5 or 10 year plan. It's a big ask, and I think it's a massive gamble by Donald Trump.
Well, there's two things I'd say there. Is number one, the first thing is there is a problem, and he has to deal with it. America's running out of money. It can't keep living off debt. And for example, American aid, just one example, they are obliged to give the UN $1 billion a year. And he walks into office and he finds that actually America's giving the UN 18 billion. 17 billion more than necessary. And he said, no, I'm stopping this. This American aid stopping. We're not paying funding for all these different, and in many cases he's used the word woke events that's been funded by American aid. So he's drawing back in his money. That's the first thing he's doing. The second thing he's trying to do is to create a situation where, and you've hit the nail on the head earlier on then when you talked about the deficit, how did he come up with these tariffs? Well, if you look at Ireland, we export 72 billion. That's a massive amount of export to America. It's our biggest exporter. We only import 17 billion from America. So there's a 50 billion deficit. And he's going and saying, hold on a minute here, Ireland. Hold on here a minute, Europe and the rest of the world.
But he's also
there's
actually,
a massive...
he's not including, or is he including services and what have you in that as well? I mean, it's he's used a very crude system to establish these, which, as I said earlier on, points to maybe it is a starting point for negotiations.
And I think that's what he's at. And you're saying he's playing a dangerous game. I think that's what he's at. He's looking for negotiations as to get a rebalance with America. He knows, rightly, as you've pointed out, that the pharma companies, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of skills and it takes a lot of research to develop medicines and things like that there. But he's trying to create a basis out of which he will work and negotiate with the rest of Europe and also Ireland. I mean, he has mentioned 20% tariffs right away on all EU imports, but he hasn't mentioned big pharma, the pharma yet, and that is on his sights. And as you pointed out, in wartime or in crisis, he realizes America is not self-sufficient, so he's going to do something about that. And what really scares me, and maybe from an Irish point of view, is that we have a woman called Ursula von der Leyen, who is the president of the EU Commission, might I add, not elected, right? And has not yet visited Trump in the White House. She's not been to the White House yet, and she is our lead negotiator for Ireland and for Europe with Trump. And clearly there's going to be a clash there. And that really concerns me, that we as a sovereign nation have outsourced our financial prosperity to a non-elected EU bureaucrat sitting out in Europe. I think that's a frightening vista and a very concerning vista for us.
Yeah, Dr. Joe Kelly, listen, I must move on. I appreciate your time. There's much more in terms of ideology and all I'd like to dig in with you, but we'll have to do that the next time. Paddy Hart's the former chair of the International Fund for Ireland. It's one of those, Paddy, and a very good morning to you, where it could have been much worse, but we don't know yet. Firstly, we don't know yet. There seems to be a provision for industry-specific or sector-specific tariffs. So it is possible there might be a specific tariff on pharmaceuticals. And he talked of pharmaceuticals really quite pointedly during his statement. And also we don't know yet what retaliatory tariffs might sort of adversely affect Ireland versus the rest of the EU. So it's not as bad as it could have been, but we just don't know yet. What's your assessment, Paddy?
Morning, Greg. Well, firstly, I think it's important to say that we're one of the most successful open global economies in the world. We didn't get here without an enormous effort by the IDA, Enterprise Ireland, our education system, our government, our diplomatic corps, to get us to this almost economic miracle that we're in. And this economic miracle has survived the financial crisis, it survived Brexit, it survived COVID. So we are well capable of surviving this no matter what comes. Now, not welcome, I agree, and 10% or 20% is better than it may have been. But it is important to make that point before we go down a rabbit hole as this is the worst thing in the world that could happen. And also, the Irish footprint in terms of its exports goes way beyond America. And those are all there to be worked on, to look at alternative markets, to look not externally, internally. We also have to now live up to the fact that there are some things that we were taking lightly. We have competitive barriers internally, like housing, like our infrastructure, that we certainly need to need to have a look at, and we need to have another look at using our sovereign wealth fund to invest more in what we're good at, like biomedics, etc. So I'm not as pessimistic in it because we're very good at what we do as a country. Also, in terms of the US, I think you have to be in America. Like lots of people who've been will know that our footprint in America is huge, and again down to tremendous work of IDA Enterprise Ireland, tremendous work of our diplomatic corps and our business community. So we'll have ways of getting around lots of those things. One maybe simple example is a business colleague of mine who's a small manufacturer. Last month into the States. Last month opened a holding company in the States. He exports to his holding company, so he'll pay a tariff on what he sells to his holding company, and then he has a healthy enough margin to mean that he can absorb that into his customer base in the States. Mm-hmm. So I'm not as gloomy about all of this.
Okay,
perhaps.
And neither am I, Paddy. But listen, the day-to-day stuff, not the tech and not the pharmaceutical stuff, right? Everything that we export to America is now going to be 20% higher. I would imagine that invariably has to impact on, firstly, the availability of money in America to purchase, but also the attractiveness of buying that. Secondly, if we still don't know what might happen to our pharmaceutical companies, what might happen to American companies based here, we just don't know. And our economy is in excellent shape, don't get me wrong, and it has survived some great challenges. But that was because we were very useful because of our intellectual skill set, but also the only English-speaking country in the EU and having one foot in the EU. If Donald Trump makes it so unattractive for those businesses to stay here, or so attractive for them to move back to America, as soon as you start talking of, general sales potentially being down, pharmaceuticals moving away, maybe some of that stuff that's not even produced here not being sort of passed through Ireland because of our lower VAT rate, there's a collective cost to that strips away, really, because we're such a small open economy, everything that is good about the economy.
Greg, America isn't our only market. That's important to state that. I can't get it verified, but I think maybe America accounts for 70% of all our exports. So it means that 83% of our exports go elsewhere. So yes, I take the point that we'd rather not of this, but it's here. Now, 20% may end up 10% before this is over. I suspect that Donald Trump is working at two track. One is short-term tactics and long-term strategies, and the strategies seem to be focused on the automotive sector, the car industry more than pharma. Though you're right, and in Section 3.4 you can have industry-specific tariffs, and they may well come under it. Also, pharma is tends to be price inelastic. The people prices can go up a long way in pharma before people stop buying it. So it's not as big an impact as the 20% or whatever that tariff might be would sound like, because Americans won't feel it. They'll still go and buy their pharma. In terms of companies leaving, they're well embedded. They're well embedded here, and they're not simply embedded because of costs. They have a fabulous workforce. They have a fabulous ecosystem in Ireland. They have long-term plans. Anything can happen in the medium to long term anyway, whether this happens or not. So I don't see pharma moving and anytime soon. When they come here with plans of up to 10 years. Reacting to this now, and also remember that in the midterms in the United States, typically the Senate and the Congress drifts away from the president, so the power may only 2 years long, and then the Senate and Congress begin to get power again. So at the moment, it's a short-term, highly unwelcome measure. However, the Irish government and the Irish industry have been aware of this coming along for some time, particularly aware of the corporation tax. So they have been preparing. Minister Burke on his competitive and productivity action plan is going to be ramped up. We're very good at responding, Greg. So I'm not as pessimistic maybe as other people are about this.
Yeah, and the Taoiseach is actually under that Section 4 that you mentioned. The Taoiseach has mentioned that he is expecting farmer-specific tariffs to be announced in the next couple of weeks or days. How important is Europe's response to this then? You know, you talked about the potential for these tariffs to be negotiated down 10% to 10%, but that's going to really greatly depend, I suppose, on what we do through the offices of the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Do we sort of try and negotiate? Do we try and hit back hard?
Ursula von der Leyen won't be doing the negotiating, of course, and EU negotiators are superb negotiators. I mean, they're top of their game. I'm not going to second guess them. It's way above my pay grade. So I would expect that the European trade negotiators will be sitting down now and figuring out the best way to approach this, and they'll know, like we do, and like everyone knows, that tit for tat trade war won't work. And I don't think that's what Donald Trump has in mind anyway. It's just rebalancing things. Some of it, have put their hands up and say, you know, we've done extraordinarily well in terms of our economic model, but we're always going to come across this sooner or later. And it is a wake-up call for Ireland that to look at all of the other 83% of our exports having been ramped up. So what will the EU do? They're extremely good at what they do. They're tough. I'm very confident in their ability to get to the right place in this. And as I say, it won't be Ursula von der Leyen who'll be doing these negotiating.
No, but it'll be
very,
her,
very
as it was heard this morning, but that probably will be relating it. But that being said, it's interesting that she mentioned this morning negotiations and hoping negotiations are successful, and if not, there could be retaliatory measures. Okay, Paddy, thank you very much for your opinions on
Greg.
that. I do appreciate it. Have a lovely day. That's Paddy Hart, former chair of the International Fund for Ireland. A caller says Dr. Joe was correct about von der Leyen, and don't forget the word sovereign used by Joe was dismissed by Micheál Martin a few years ago as being backward thinking, proving our government has sold out to the EU. Suits him to use it when talking about Ukraine all the same. United States, our exports 33% to the United States, 10% to the Netherlands, our second biggest place we export to. The United Kingdom is actually behind the Netherlands, 9.4%, Germany 9%, Belgium 7.7%, China 4.3%, Spain 2.3%, Canada 1.8%. So there are, other markets there that are pretty strong, but 1/3 of our exports to the United States, totaling $78.61 billion in 2024. Right, okay, we have to take a break. Stay where you are. Your comments are coming in thick, August fast, and we'll get to them and more content after these.
Roll call for relay! Yay!
Muncher Lee and Shaw, Roll Call for Relay. Roll Call for Relay is calling on all schools, Montessoris and creches from every corner of the Northwest who's up for doing a simple school challenge. Boys and girls, do you have any ideas for a challenge?
Go on the slide or do skipping. Climb 2 mountains in one day. A skydive.
To take part and have a bit of fun, simply email rollcallforrelay@gmail.com or check out our socials for more information.
Discover the latest styles in bathroom and tiles at Bathroom and Tile Boutique Bridgend. Visit our newly refurbished showroom in Bridgend today and transform your space with stunning designs for quality and style. Call into Bathroom and Tile Boutique Bridgend.
At Lidl, we searched for fantastic Easter eggs and found them close to home. Thank Cavan Chocolatier, Anya's Handmade Chocolates, for our wide range of deluxe Easter eggs. You'll taste delicately handmade chocolate with the purest of ingredients from $6.99. Proudly supporting Irish suppliers. Shop without compromise. Go full Lidl this Easter.
At Fleming's, we take great pride in having provided quality steel and roofing to all our customers throughout Ireland since 1860.
Tell them about the doors, John.
Okay, Mike. We also provide a full quality range of
Doors, industrial doors, garage doors, roller doors, insulated doors.
Thanks for that, Mike.
No dramas, mate.
Fleming's, engineering solutions for 150 years. Call us now on 074 91 48 234.
Joe Gallagher Entertainment presents the Ultimate 70s Night, Sunday, October 26th. Get ready for Shawadi Wadi and the Bay City Rollers live at the Mount Erigal Hotel, Letterkenny. Sing and dance the night away to all the hits. Tickets on sale at ticketmaster.ie and hotel reception. Don't miss this unforgettable night, October 26th at the Mount Erigal Hotel, Letterkenny.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Hi, ma'am. Yeah, we've hit the road. Should be there in about an hour. They're so excited to see you. Everyone, say hi to Granny.
With up to 7 seats, the all-new Volkswagen Tayron has more space for families of all shapes and sizes and breeds. Also available as plug-in hybrid. Search Volkswagen Tayron or visit your local dealer.
George, I told you to go before we left.
Volkswagen.
Order your 251 with Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny. See connolly's.ie.
This spring, give your home an instant glow-up with Hillary's. Right now in our spring sale, save up to 40% off hundreds of made-to-measure styles. But wait, there's more. For a limited time only, get an extra 10% off everything. Blinds, curtains, shutters, even products already in the sale. Hurry, this flash event ends 17th of April. And remember, with Hillary's, measuring and fitting is always included. Book your free home appointment now at hillary's.ie. Hillary's, transforming homes across Ireland for over 40 years. Conditions apply.
Welcome to Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms in Donegal Town. Discover affordable luxury with our bespoke fitted furniture solutions. With almost 30 years of serving Ireland and the Northwest, we're your trusted experts. Visit us Monday to Friday 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. Book your free consultation today on 074 972 5822 or visit cherrymore.ie. Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, where affordability and luxury combine.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Discover trending new styles each week in fashion, footwear, accessories, homeware and more. Visit us to explore the latest arrivals in store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Largely dry and sunny, although breezy and a freshening easterly wind. Highest temperatures of 13 to 17 degrees. Ian Harkin is the CEO of Lottie Dolls. Ian, thanks for joining me. I do appreciate it.
No problem at all. Greg, thank you.
Right, so of course Lottie Dolls, an Irish company, you're Donegal based, Ian, but your product is produced and presumably exported to markets from China. So you've already been under, you've already felt Trump's tariffs, is that correct?
Yeah, so the tariffs introduced over a month ago, and we've been paying 20% on our latest shipments into America. It's interesting. I didn't really dig into the detail of it, but I'm looking at the latest rate, and it says it's jumping up from 20% up to 34% to imports from China to.
I believe it's actually.
America.
I believe it's actually 34 on top of the 20. Ian.
Good God.
That's my. I believe these are additional to the existing tariffs and not an increase in the tariffs that are already there. I'm open to correction on that, but that's my understanding.
Yeah. Now that'll be catastrophic to our business. America represents 70 to 80% of our turnover at the moment, so that will be a major challenge.
It's actually, just to confirm that, it's a 54% total tariff now on Chinese exports into the United States. So it is 34 on top of the 20.
Yeah. And I mean, the way I've looked at it when it was first implemented is that the entire, I think 80 80+% of the entire world's toy industry is manufactured in China. And looking at the other countries, Vietnam would be another country that has toy production as well. So it also, if you combine both of those, they're probably up at closer to the 90% of toy production. So it's going to hit everybody across the board in America. So I can see that they'll probably have to pull back on elements of it because, it will affect so many different, it'll hit the end consumer, and inflation is going to kick in America. So
Ian,
at least...
it's sales that's affected here, though, isn't it? Because the tariffs are paid.
Yeah.
The tariffs are paid at the import center, effectively, and it is the customer that pays, or do companies like yours try and absorb some of them?
No, it's everything has to be passed on to the customer. You can't really absorb that level of tariffs. Effectively, you may make short-term decisions because you've got inventory in place. But we're fortunate enough that we've got quite a bit of our inventory in the States already this year. So we're not too bad. We can probably ride out a little bit of it. We've 2 containers just arriving, so I'd imagine we're only paying the original 20% on those. But the only solace that you can take from it is that everybody's going to be in the same boat. Literally.
But the idea, Ian, is that you look at this and you say, right, the United States is one of our biggest export markets. I'm going to send someone over to the United States or go myself to see if there's a company over there that can manufacture your product to the standard that you expect. Is that something that you will look at? Because if you were inclined to do so, it means that Trump's tariffs are working.
No, the labor rate is the biggest one. So and that is why, well, it's a number of different things. The supply chain that we have in China is, everything from fabrics to paints to a lot of our products are plastic injection as well. So there's the tooling departments and things like that. So the cost of tooling something in China is significantly cheaper than it is in Europe here or in America. So to get that supply chain in place would take you 4 or 5 years. It would take 4 or 5 years for a large company, but for a small company like ourselves, we couldn't really, we wouldn't have the buying power to be able to put it in place on our own. We would probably have to follow some of the bigger companies and wait until they've done it.
Yeah, I'm looking sort of on Amazon USA here at some of your product. I presume it's yours, unless someone's nicked your intellectual property. No. And I'm looking at prices here and then imagining an additional, by the time someone clicks through, maybe this time next week, an additional, what did we say, 54% on top of it, which would, they still represent good value, I think, given the standard but it's a huge jump, if you're doing a bit of birthday or Christmas shopping, it's going to be impactful.
Yeah. We do a lot of testing on price points. So we know that within our brand that we do have flexibility for increasing prices. We did actually reduce prices a couple of years ago. We were retailing at $24.95, which is what we're back up at the moment. But we reduced it down to $19.95. But if this 50% or 54% comes in, then we will have to look at rising it again. But we'd be comfortable enough in knowing that there is flexibility. Certainly in the American market, I'm not so much sure about in Europe, but obviously that's not a consideration anyway, because it's only the American market. But America has a lot of disposable income, so but when all of these tariffs come in, maybe that disposable income does disappear as well.
But that being said, it's another one of these financial measures, Ian, that actually really does affect the poorest most, or those with less amount of money, because if someone wants to buy a product like yours, they've got disposable income, they've got a bit of latitude there to understand that there's been a somewhat of an increase. But if you are someone on a lower income that already didn't have a great deal of spending capacity, it just puts products even further out of your reach and drives you deeper into poverty. It's funny, like these financial measures, even on the most basic way, you can see how they benefit the better off than the poorer, if that makes sense. And we see that often with measures that are introduced around the country. It just makes those less well off, even their money going even less further.
Yeah. Well, we do with Lottie Dolls. We do. We've developed quite a few different dolls with different abilities, and we would have done a lot of them in partnership with people living in the States, and we're seeing a lot of their supports being taken away at the moment. So you're right, the people on the margins of society at the moment in America are just being tossed to the side, from what I can see.
From what I can see too, actually, there still is very good value in some of your dolls, which are lovely actually, because they're not Barbie dolls. They're normal. They represent sort of normal people. Is it inappropriate to get a quick reaction to the appointment of Kevin McHugh? I mean, listen, we'll wait and see how the tariffs wear out.
Yeah.
Just sling that hat into the passenger seat of the car there and throw your other one on. This gave me a bit of a buzz, actually. It feels like right now's the time. This is the right guy with the right attitude at the right stage for the club.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You interviewed me recently there about a buzz in the club when you were saying that that hype to bring people to games, and Kevin does that. He is a very positive, person, but also he's a perfectionist as well, and that he's going to give it his all. He's going to. Everything with Kevin is about percentages. So every single element that is controllable, he will try to improve. What he can improve, I guess. And he'll push the players. He'll push the backroom team to keep improving, and that's as much as you can ask of anybody.
But I like.
Really.
I think there's a Jim McGuinness-esque element to this, actually, in soccer terms, because I think also too, in some of his early comments right from the off, it's like, well, this is what I expect, or this is how I am. We can be like that in any working environment. I expect those working with me to have the same commitment, passion, and ethos, and I think that's really helpful. I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah. No, he's surrounded himself by those people as well. So that's really key. I mean, having that belief as well. That's you're born with that. I think he believes that he can achieve things that others maybe can't. But it's not just down to natural talent either. He works very, very hard at it, and that's what he expects of the players as well. It's one thing having talent, but it's another thing, putting the work in, day out to deliver that. So.
I think it's going to be
exciting.
I think it's going to be a really interesting journey. I really do, and I think there's going to be a lot of success coming to that club. And it's not always necessarily measured in how you might traditionally measure success, if you know what I mean. But I think that's coming too. Yeah. Ian, thank you for your time. Sorry for making you switch hats and all. Take care of yourself.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Take care.
That's Ian Harkins, CEO of Lottie Dolls, and of course heads up the board of Finn Harps as well. Back after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
For strong, unique, weather-resistant homes, choose Cedral Exteriors. Our fibre cement roof slates and wall cladding ranges are built to last for generations, exceeding EU quality standards. Members of Guaranteed Irish, our products are locally made and beautifully designed, offering long-term peace of mind. Visit cedral.ie. Cedral Exteriors. Strength guaranteed.
We love better value at Dunnes Stores, with a selection of half-price offers across some of your favourite big brands. That's chocolate bar multi-packs like Kit Kat 9-pack range, large soft drinks like 7-Up Zero and Pepsi Max 2 litre, and cereal like Kellogg's Crunchy Nuts 720 gram. All half price. Plus, save at the till with a 5 off 25 grocery voucher. Dunnes Stores. Always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used to next grocery shop of €25 or more. Prices subject to deposit return scheme fees.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark-approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. A former chair of the International Fund for Ireland says there is a resilience in Irish industry and business which will come to the fore as the tariff debate rages following yesterday's announcements by US President Donald Trump. On today's 9 till noon show, Paddy Hart said this is not a time for panic and he believes the effects of the announcement are not likely to be as severe as some are predicting. Mr Hart told Greg Hughes that organisations like the IDA have been doing very important work along with the diplomatic corps and other government agencies and others for many years. He says the Irish presence in the US is something that shouldn't be underestimated.
So we are well capable of surviving this no matter what comes. Now, not welcome, I agree, and 10% or 20% is better than it may have been. The Irish footprint in terms of its exports goes way beyond America. I'm not as pessimistic in it because we're very good at what we do as a country. In terms of the US, our footprint in America is huge. We'll have ways of getting around lots of those things.
Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson Donegal TD Piers Doherty told the Dáil this morning that last night's announcement by Donald Trump amounted to economic sabotage.
The key here is negotiation, the key is de-escalation, and we need to get to a point where sensible heads and cool heads prevail. What happened yesterday, in my view, was an act of economic sabotage by the US administration in relation to their own economy and will push up prices for American consumers.
Options to reduce the cost of college fees are being considered at an event in Dublin today. The Higher Education Minister is meeting with students and colleges. Minister James Lawless says he doesn't expect the cost to return to €3,000 this year. Nathan Murphy, Vice President for Campaigns in USI, says talks so far have been promising.
It does seem that he is not likely to continue the once-off reductions of €1,000, but he has talked about reforming SUSI to make SUSI more accessible. But at the current moment in time, it is still our stance of abolishing all higher education fees for students.
Emergency services are at the scene of a fire in County Derry this morning. The Barnett Road outside Cloddy is currently closed as a result. Police are advising that the road is closed until the junction with Old Ford Glen Road. Motorists are being advised to seek alternative routes. The Taoiseach says there is no doubt that the red weather warning issued ahead of Storm Éowyn in January saved lives. Answering questions from a number of TDs, including South Donegal Deputy Eamon Scanlon, Micheál Martin said the death of 20-year-old Casper Dudek in Donegal after a tree fell on his car was a tragedy. However, he said the situation could have been much worse. The Taoiseach reiterated that all aspects of the response to the storm are being reviewed to see what lessons can be learned.
That red warning in advance saved a lot of lives. Of that there is no doubt. Unfortunately, one person lost his life, and the lesson from that is perhaps, and this has been examined because I had meetings with everybody after the storm, there is an issue of transitioning too fast from red to orange. I've ordered a full comprehensive review of all of this.
Midlands North West MEP Ciarán Mullooly has urged the Taoiseach to immediately publish the Gaeltacht Housing Blueprint, highlighting the urgent need for planning reforms. Speaking in the European Parliament, he argued that the delay threatens both housing provision and the survival in the Irish language in regions such as Donegal. Mr Mullooly said unchecked property acquisitions are displacing young Irish-speaking locals and warned discriminatory planning policies risk the permanent loss of the language in Gaeltacht areas.
If planning continues to be granted without restrictions and there is no positive discrimination towards Irish speakers, there's a real risk now of losing the Irish language forever in locations like Galway, Kerry and Donegal. We need positive planning policies that favour the natives, and we must ensure young people with fluent Irish are not priced out of their communities.
And Donegal County Council is to hold a civic reception to recognise 100 years of continuous political representation on Donegal County Council by the Blaney family. Neil Blaney was first elected to the council in 1925, and since then further generations of the family have been successful in obtaining seats on the local authority. With more, here's Cuimhse Connolly.
Neil Blaney was first elected to Donegal County Council as a Sinn Féin councillor in 1925 before joining Fianna Fáil, and was elected to the Dáil in 1927, where he served until 1948. His son Neil T. Blaney took over his council seat, retaining it until 1957, before also making his way to the Dáil and European Parliament, holding a number of ministerial positions during his tenure. Neil T.'s son Harry was co-opted onto the council, followed by Niall Blaney, who held the seat until his election to the Dáil in 2002, and then the Seanad, where he continues to represent Donegal. Current councillor Liam Blaney is the third generation of the Blaneys to hold a council seat, having first been elected in 2003. The council has agreed to liaise with the family to secure a suitable date for a civic reception on foot of a motion put forward by councillor Donal Coyle to recognise what he says is an unparalleled contribution to public life.
Weather forecast largely dry and sunny, although breezy in a freshening easterly wind. Top temperatures today 13 to 17 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. Back with news headlines again at 11. In the interim, check all of the latest news on our website, highlandradio.com. But for now, from the news team, good morning.
The obituary notice says for this Thursday morning, April the 3rd. The death has occurred of Francis Boyle, née Martin, Drummond, Barnesmore, Donegal Town. Francis's remains will repose at her late residence today from 2 o'clock until 9 o'clock. Removal to St Agatha's Church Clar tomorrow morning for funeral mass at 11 o'clock, with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. House private place on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations, if so desired, to Arsvik Suvni Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member or Faulkner Funeral Directors. Francis's funeral mass can be viewed on mcn.live. The death has taken place of Anne McGrory, Fintown, County Donegal, reposing at her home from 12 noon today until Rosary at 9 o'clock. Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning in St Colmcille's Chapel, Fintown, with burial afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Family time from after the Rosary and on the morning of the funeral. The funeral mass can be viewed on the parish Facebook page. The death has taken place of Charles David Moffat, 32, Oak Grove, Dunfanaghy, County Donegal. House private place, no wake. Funeral service in St John's Church, Ballymore, tomorrow at 12 noon, followed by private cremation. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Irish Heart Foundation, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has occurred in Paisley, Scotland, of Peter McNamee, reposing in his daughter's residence at Eden Ochel, Crossroads, Killygordon, today from 12 noon until 9 o'clock. Funeral leaving from there tomorrow morning at 20 past 10 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon. Interment in the adjoining churchyard. Requiem Mass can be viewed on the parish YouTube channel. And the death has taken place of John Griffin, Demons, Ringsend, Castlefin, reposing at his late home. Service in Lynch's funeral home, 50 Castlefin Road, Castlederg, on Saturday at 12:30. Private cremation afterwards in Lakelands Crematorium, County Cavan. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Being a grown-up means Paul has to buy his own Easter egg from Aldi this year.
but it also means he can get exactly what he wants. A specially selected ripple egg and a Roisin's honeycomb egg, made in Ireland for dessert. Plus 2 specially selected Belgian truffle-filled eggs, which he's now hiding in the garden because it's all about the kids, really. Good food, good mood from Aldi.
Now, we will be joined after 11 o'clock for the first time this season by our resident gardener, and that is Mr. Paul McLaughlin of Ballochder Garden Centre. So, I note this morning, actually, there was frost about, and there may be some nights of frost ahead. So does that mean we shouldn't be doing this, that or the other? Or maybe we should be doing this, that and the other? I don't know. So if you have any questions about, your hedges, your trees, your grass, your lawn, your flower pots, your external flowers, internal flowers, anything that you want to get some help on to maybe reinvigorate its greenness or its colour or whatever it might be, get in touch with us right now. Your questions for Paul McLaughlin, our gardener, to 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call us on 074 91 25,000. Now also, we are seeing a return of our popular lunchtime lives. These are broadcasts. They're exclusive to our Highland Hub Facebook page. And we're coming to you live on Facebook from Foy's in Letterkenny. And the special is coming to you live to give you a glimpse at what you could do with the €10,000 home makeover as part of our home makeover draw. So join us as we explore everything you could do with that 10K. From stylish furnishings and fresh decor to the latest home must-haves. And it's very important you get involved. So if you have any questions to the Facebook Live, just drop them on the post and we'll answer them right then and there. So join Corinne and the team from 1 p.m. live on the Highland Hub Facebook page from Foy's in Letterkenny. And just to remind you about that draw, it's running at the moment, and there's not that long left. We're deep into April now, the 3rd, really deep into it. So another 13 days to enter this draw. It's worth 20k initially, right? So it's €10,000 to spend at Foy's and €10,000 in cash. Not bad, is it? To be entered into the draw, all you have to do is buy a ticket at highlandradio.com. You click on Win a Home Makeover, answer a simple question, and you can buy 1 ticket for 15 or 5 for 50. So the more you buy, obviously, the better value it is, but obviously only buy tickets if you can have a bit of fun and you enter these draws. So that's not bad, is it? €20,000 worth of a prize for €15, or in fact, for as little as €10. But as they say on the adverts, but wait, there's more, because since we initially mentioned it, we are now adding 5 more draws of €1,000. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to be drawing tickets and each will win €1,000. If you've already bought your tickets or you bought it before we added the 5k, you're in those draws as well, because you early birds, you get the best value as always. So don't worry about it. If you've already bought a ticket, you're in every draw. But it's not too late now for you to buy your ticket and be in with a chance of winning €10,000 to spend at Foy's, €10,000 cash, and 5 prizes of €1,000. The website is there, perfectly safe and secure. But if you want us to help and process your ticket and get it emailed out to you, give us a call on 07491 25,000. So you want to be getting it now so that you can relax and be in all draws next week. And it's 1,000 across various shows. But anyway, you don't have to answer your phone. There's no 5 rings. There's no this, that, and that. If you're working and your phone is in a locker, that's fine. Your number comes out. You've won anyway, right? We'll make contact with you and get your IBAN and get that money over to you. So 20 grand worth of a max prize and then 5 €1,000 prizes. Call us now to get your ticket, 07491 25,000, or go onto our website, highlandradio.com. And as I say to you, because I think this is an important factor, and it would be a deciding factor for me, there's some fantastic companies that run some fantastic competitions. This is in no way to take away from them. But even just to win a relatively small prize on the lotto, there's going to be way more tickets sold than we'll sell, right? Or in fact, you'd have to buy way more tickets than we sell to win one of those prizes. This represents a really decent ratio for you to win, and we must be hundreds of people have won really big across those various draws. Okay, so that's a bit of housework done there. I mentioned Paul McLaughlin's coming on, didn't I? There was a request though for an important gentleman that I wanted to mention. A very special dad and granddad. It's Desi Harkin in Drummond, Letterkenny. Hiya, Desi. We wish you a very happy birthday from your daughter, Tina, and grandchildren, Zara, Sky, Lily, and Jed. All lovely names. Well done, Tina. Zara, Sky, Lily, and Jed. I like Jed particularly there. Hope you have a... Sorry, this is about Granddad Desi. Sorry about that. Hope you have a wonderful birthday, Desi, in Drummond, Letterkenny. Lots of love and a big happy birthday from Tina and Zara and Sky and Lily and Jed. And from all of us here at Highland Radio and all your friends and family, I'm sure. Morning, Greg. Trump is sucking all the oxygen out of the room every day. No mention of the war crimes in Gaza and Israel's land grab or Ukraine's fight for their country. Stop allowing Trump to do this. So you're saying he's headline grabbing. I get where you're coming from. Our attention span as the public is sadly narrow at times. And the bottom line is say, for instance, I was producing a newspaper this morning. And I put on the front page of one paper the land grab in that's happening in Palestine at the moment, or 450 Ukrainian or Russian soldiers killed on another, or what's happening in Yemen on another, or even housing on another, and then the Trump tariffs on one. The pile about the Trump tariffs would go down, 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 down as people picked it up. I'm not saying that's what's driving our news cycle on this programme, don't get me wrong, but that is the truth. People emotionally move on to the next thing. A caller says, with Trump's favourable treatment of the UK, is it time to leave the EU and cop on and rejoin the United Kingdom? Well, the United Kingdom and the United States are actually working on a trade deal at the moment. There's not really... Well, I'll find out the exact figures. So the tariffs Britain charges, in inverted commas, is much lower because of the level of United Kingdom exports to America versus the American exports to the United Kingdom. There's almost like a parity there. So that's why they've been hit. But look at the state of the English economy, the British economy. It's in the gutter. They are banjaxed over there. If you've got friends or family in England, you'll know it. We should not, I don't believe anyway, whether it's inside or outside the EU, we should not be aspiring to be in the financial state that the United Kingdom is. So I would be inclined to disagree with you respectfully on that one. America makes a lot of money exporting munitions. Also, Israel seems to be running the American government. Well, Israel also is being hit with tariffs. And other Americans would also have to start accepting lower pay if they want jobs in America. That's quite true. Corporations aren't going to suddenly start paying American wages. Paying 20-40% extra onto imports somewhere else is still less than what Americans look for, and still less than building new factories. And look at Ian Harkin from Lottie Dolls there. That's a big enough company, right? But so that allows them, maybe if they could reposition themselves. But he says no, it's not even a runner for that company, say for instance, to go to America and base itself in its biggest market, because it still would not be financially viable.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 3rd of April, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €11,400 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S9. It's game number 14. The jackpot number is 61. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers: 55, 61, 34, 33, 7, 83, 62, 22, 65, and finally 37. Phone your claim to 910-4833 before midnight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Hoka, the brand that has changed running shoes at Brian McCormick Sports. The ultra-cushioned game changer, Bondi 9, will give you a soft and bouncy transition from heel to toe. Enjoy the increased stack height with a new premium midsole. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click on bmcsports.ie.
Imagine a wedding venue that can be hired exclusively for you and your guests. Picture stunning views overlooking one of Donegal's most scenic beaches, an authentic country manor as your accommodation, incredible glass-fronted marquee views all day, and a team of experts who want to help you plan every step of the way. Sounds too good to be true? Not at Drumhalla House in Rathmullen. It really has to be seen to be believed. Visit drumhallahouse.ie or check out Drumhalla House on Instagram for more details.
Shop Homeland's April mega deals at your local Homeland or online at homeland.ie. Save 25% of Dulux EasyCar, vinyl matte and soft sheen interior paints. There's bold 100 wash lavender and chamomile washing powder now $19.99. Save €7. Offers end April 21st. Visit homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Now, we welcome on to the programme Minister of State at the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, and at the Department of the Environment, Climate and Communications, Minister Alan Dillon. Minister, thank you for your time this morning, and good morning to you.
Thanks, Greg. Good to be on.
Right, we're going to talk about the new job seekers pay related benefit which came into effect yesterday, but just the mood around government buildings following the announcements from the Rose Gardens just after 9 p.m. last night. What's the initial take?
Well, firstly, after weeks of build-up, we now have clarity on the recent developments, and I think what's really important now is that government prioritise the challenge that faces in the road ahead, protecting Irish jobs, protecting our economy, and limiting the damages of these tariffs. We will be working very closely with our EU partners to navigate the challenges, and also we're fully committed to getting into a negotiated pathway with the US. The EU and Ireland's response, as many would understand, needs to be calm, needs to be measured, but needs to be very strategic, and it should not adversely affect, issues or economies within Ireland per se, but also needs to be sustainable. And there's no winners when it comes to tariff. As we say, they're counterproductive. They drive up costs, put jobs at risk, create uncertainty, and we will be working closely with Irish exporters who are potentially at risk. But as I said, our top priority at the minute is to protect Irish jobs, support impacted sectors, and ensure that our economy remains competitive and resilient.
The EU has indicated in the first instance that we will negotiate, but there are retaliatory options. Do you believe that those negotiations might prove successful, given the crude way in which the administration developed these tariffs? It seems to open the doorway for negotiations.
Well, certainly, and I think if the US administration and President Trump carries form, announcing a series of trade and tariff measures last night, but also this is in many instances his first offer, and he has gone back to the negotiation table in other instances. So this is about Ireland standing together with our EU colleagues, firstly to defend our interests, but also to avoid a damaging trade dispute. And we will work in full coordination with our EU partners that will deliver a proportionate and a united response. And I think we need to be very diplomatic in this way and not escalate the current difficulties.
Is the government preparing itself, and it seemed to be allowed for under subsection 4 or section 4 of the document released yesterday, for a pharmaceutical specific tariff? We haven't necessarily escaped that at this point.
Well, certainly that's the case, and if there's any positive to take out of it, it is to note that the pharmaceuticals are excluded from the reciprocal tariffs. And according to the facts sheet that was issued yesterday by the White House. But at the same time, significant uncertainty remains for the sector. And I think a focus of government now is to ensure that we look at our competitiveness, that we can also look to see how we can improve that and ensure that we are an attractive place for companies to invest in Ireland who have access to the European market, over 450 individuals, and we will continue to ensure that we, look at our capital development plan. We have quadrupled spending in that regard, because many of these multinationals are very focused on ensuring that we have adequate services, be it energy, water, and I think that is the attractiveness. We have a strong track record of FDI here in this country, and we want to remain very competitive in that regard.
Well, let's talk about the new job seekers pay related benefit. And one would hope that these tariffs and this global trade war doesn't lead to a situation where we start seeing people in great numbers lose their jobs, because this could put great pressure on this type of initiative, I'd imagine. But that's perhaps for another day. What was confirmed from yesterday?
Well, this is a new scheme that has been introduced, originally formulated by my former colleague Heather Humphreys, and my party in Fine Gael have always been focused on making work pay. And losing your job, is a very stressful and uncertain time for many. So what's been introduced today is, from now, if you lose your job, you can apply for a job seekers pay related benefit, and this will provide a weekly payment that will be linked to your previous pay, and certainly it will allow people to bridge the gap between their income and their outgoings. And what we will see is that this payment now will be linked to your previous pay for a period on a tapered basis, and the payment will be calculated on a percentage of your gross weekly earnings, up to a maximum of €450. And it means that it allows individuals to focus on getting back on their feet, and knowing that they can be in receipt of a higher payment than what was previously provided. So it will be determined on the basis of your previous PRSI contributions. And I think it's a significant step forward in cushioning that blow for individuals who may, lose their job through no fault of their own. But the fact now that there's a substantial increase in what they actually will receive through this new scheme is very welcomed from the previous scheme, which provided a flat rate of €244.
And no one will receive less than €244 through these measures. This is a top up, so to speak, for those that are or have been and qualify reliant on a higher rate of income.
That's correct. And as I said, that the rate of pay depends on your previous weekly pay, your gross pay. And any person who has been earning the average wage in Ireland would qualify for the top rate. So it varies from the minimum of €125 per week to a maximum of €450 per week. And as I said earlier, it's calculated on your gross weekly earnings. You apply like any other social welfare payments through the mywelfare.ie portal. And I think it's an important initiative in a space where it allows people to, avail of new educational courses, but also to allow them look at the market and see where they would like to go in relation to new opportunities.
And in terms of how long you receive it, or during the course of whilst you are receiving it, are there any checks to ensure that you are sort of seeking alternative employment?
Well, this payment is, as I said earlier, it's on a tapered basis. So for the first 3 months, you will receive 60% of your previous weekly pay, up to $450. So I suppose the incentive is that your payment reduces for the second 3 months and the third the last 3 months to a maximum of €300. So it does incentivize those to kind of look for a job that bit quicker, because their income has actually been reduced. And I'm sure, like all welfare payments, it does finish after the 9-month period. So I think people are incentivized to get back into the workforce as soon as possible.
All right, okay. I suppose anything that makes that transition between the loss of a job. If you quit your job, you're still entitled to it, are you?
Well, depending on your PRSI contributions, and you have to have at least 104 of the PRSI contributions, and many workers pay an A class contribution, but you also need to ensure that your contributions are delivered within 6 months of you.
Yeah, but if
losing
I
your
quit
job.
my job today, right? Say I fall out with the manager. If I quit my job today, can I apply for this higher rate of social welfare?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be available, and it would be open to anyone as long as they're
They have the
eligible,
exactly the qualifying contributions. I understand it. Minister, thank you for your time. Minister Alan Dillon there with the long title of Minister of State at the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment and at the Department of the Environment, Climate and Communication. Right. Hopefully that if you're unlucky enough to lose your job and you do qualify for that, it just gives you a little bit more of a cushion and less stress whilst you seek alternative employment. So anything that seems to, and on the face of it, it does benefit the people, I'm all for. Just to remind you, coming up after 11, Paul McLaughlin will be in for our first of the gardening slots in this season. He's at Ballochdur Garden Centre at all. We're looking for any questions you might have in relation to, I suppose, getting if you're lucky enough to have a bit of greenery around your house, getting it looking its very best, or even a splash of colour in there. And if not, if you're in an apartment and you think, you know what, I'm in this apartment here and I don't have an outside space, I've got a really small balcony, what can I do to breathe a bit of life into it? Any questions like that, we'd love them. 086 60 25,000. And maybe, lots of you out there have damage to hedges or trees or something since the storms and are looking for advice. You know yourself. You'll know better than I do. Back to tariffs. Thank God to hear someone with a bit of sense and talking about what Donald is left with. I presume this is Dr. Joe Kelly. Empty buildings and businesses. These tariffs are to encourage businesses to come back to the USA. We need to have someone who cares as much about Ireland and who isn't ruled by Europe. He's trying to make America great again. Make Ireland great again, not the EU. Yes, but again, the UK experiment is ongoing. We can watch it with our own eyes as to what happens when you leave the EU and what can happen to your economy. I'm not saying I'm pro this or anti that. I'm always open to be influenced one way or another, but I can't help but speak to people I know in Britain whose lives have seriously worsened. Businesses that were promised that new market would open up to them and they'd make a killing are struggling, going out of business. So what fate would await Ireland? I don't know. Maybe something better. Trump's conducting economic sabotage on the country in order to sort out the markets and allow the oligarchs to buy up everything. Look up Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel and the feudalism that is driving Trump's cabinet. Last one before the break. The whole purpose of Trump's tariff is to level the playing field with China, and who can object to a level playing field? China may not have an additional 79% tariff since China plays by its own rules of huge state support of big business. The EU's Ursula von der Leyen last night belatedly stated that the global trading system has serious deficiencies. So why did she not do something before if she knew there was a big problem in global trade? Because the EU was simply getting away with murder, and so Trump had to be the one to start to resolve unfair trade matters, and now he's being condemned. Well, I mean, listen, he said himself, he says, Europe are our friends, the great negotiators. They've been ripping us off. It's not the EU's fault. It's former administrations that agreed with it. He said that himself. This isn't about starting a world war here. This is about trade. But that being said, I expect Ireland, or the EU for that matter, to do all it can to benefit me and my family and my friends and my community. I don't expect Ursula von der Leyen to say, we've had an unfair advantage with the United States, here's more money back, or what have you. You keep going with what you can do for as long as you can get away with it. Or else you can contradict yourself. To make Ireland great again is, you would, in inverted commas, it would be at the expense of other countries or other nations, potentially. And I think the same texter might say, well, that's fine, do it.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Cooney's Home Interiors huge spring sale now on. Massive discounts as we clear stock. Reclining sofa was 2097, now 1299. Table and 4 chairs was 795, now 499. 20% off in stock mattresses. Cushions and sheets only €5. Don't miss out. Sale ends Sunday, April 6th. Treat yourself to a bargain at the spring sale in Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park.
Get the Irish Daily Star today for your free entry pullout. We've the inside scoop from the track with Brian Flanagan and all the top tipsters in our stable ready to get your first past the post this week. Plus inside Saturday's Irish Daily Star, get a free €3 Paddy Power shop bet for Grand National Day. It's all in your Irish Daily Star. Number 1 for racing, number 1 for you. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Shannon Airport has officially been voted Ireland's favourite airport.
Which was great to hear. We've always thought we had handy parking, short queues, great people and smooth security. It's just nice to know everyone agrees. Officially Ireland's favourite airport. Shannon Airport, making it easy.
Crawford Tiles Castlefin. Spring Madness. New tiles in stock. 45 by 45, €12.99. 60 by 60, €14.99. 75 by 75, €19.99. And 1200 by 600, €24.99. All in stock and ready to go. Visit crawfordtiles.com or call 91-43942.
Has your couch seen better days? Does your wallpaper have more history than a museum? Well, it's time for a makeover. Highland Radio and Foy's are giving you the chance to win €10,000 to transform your home, plus €10,000 in cash. And just to make things even better, we're giving away €1,000 every day from the 7th to the 11th of April. Grab your ticket now at highlandradio.com and your home might thank you.
Right, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show after that short break. And I'm joined on the programme now by Aoife Dorian, a parent and member of Don't Forget Our Little Angels for September 2025. You would know that Aoife, along with a number of people from Donegal and from around the county, descended on Dublin yesterday for a sleep out. And it was part of a campaign to have appropriate and timely spaces for young children with additional needs, and some with really quite severe or complex additional needs, at the brand new Little Angels School. We're only a couple of months out, and at this point there's a lot of conversation, but it would seem very little action in the actual provision of these spaces. Aoife Dorian, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Greg, for having me on again this morning.
No, it's good to have you on. All right, Aoife. So I suppose, it's great when people unite and campaign. It's unfortunate they might have to do it. You managed to secure a meeting, did you, with TDs and the Minister with responsibility yesterday? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, while we spoke to you on the way up, we were trying to secure a meeting with the Minister because we wanted to make the journey purposeful. And just before we got to Dublin, it was confirmed then that we secured the meeting, and we were meeting them at 6 o'clock yesterday evening. So myself and my fellow parents and our other supporters came into the meeting with our local representatives as well, with Minister Moynihan.
And was she in listening mode, as they say, or how would you describe the conversation, Aoife?
Yeah, listen, we went in probably with our guards up, and we went in with one question. The one question we wanted is that we just want that yes. Just because we wanted to make it known. I know he is aware, because our local representatives had pushed forward that it was time sensitive for all the parents. And he was open to listening, and he sat and he listened to every single one of the parents' stories. And then he opened the room to the local representatives, obviously, and they had their say. And he spoke, and then obviously he opened the floor back to us for questions.
I seen from Minister Charlie McConalogue sort of an overview of the meeting. I didn't see anything specific in that as to how these children would be accommodated, just that there are options. We're looking at options. We're hoping to have solutions. In the course of the meeting, were any options favoured or anything said that gives you some certainty that a solution that is the proper solution, an adequate solution, will be found?
Yeah, I suppose Back when we had the original meeting about 5 weeks ago, we had put forward three options. Two of those options probably were the most favourable. So they were working on an option A and an option B, and option A is nearly over the line. They're in talks for 48 hours ago. They were in talks, and they have a meeting now, secured meeting on Monday now, to try and push it over the line. And once they get that done, then hopefully there'll be a press release, or we'll be contacted.
What is option B? Sorry, Aoife.
Greg, I don't really want to give the options away because I don't want to hinder that meeting on Monday, to be honest. Because if option A doesn't happen, that puts us about 3 or 4 weeks back again, because then we have to start working on option B, and that's another 3 or 4 weeks of work that we'll have to do.
I beg your pardon. Yeah. What's your level of optimism at now at this point?
I think we went in after we got that message that the minister couldn't secure a meeting on Tuesday. When I got that text from one of our local representatives, we were very disheartened, and we went up probably a wee bit sombre yesterday, but it was a very emotional day. But we definitely come away from that meeting a lot more optimistic. Like, I think we definitely know our kids are going to secure a space.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just which option we're going to get. But it definitely was. It was a very successful journey. Yeah.
Okay, good. And it just goes to show again the importance of this stuff, because it perhaps wouldn't have happened if you hadn't gone to all the effort that you and the rest of the families did.
Yeah, and I think it's really important just to remember, like, this probably won't be the end of our journey. Like, there was a lot of sad stories up there. Like, we got to go into the Dáil, and we spoke alongside, myself spoke alongside other parents from throughout the country, and they definitely, there's people fighting there, Greg, 2-3 years. There's kids sitting in preschool for 4 years. Like, it's definitely, we're not going to walk away from those families throughout the country. Like, we will continue to support them, even if we secure spaces for our kids, because it's definitely a crisis throughout the country. We are very fortunate that we had those options, and they were valid options, but we were very vocal in the meeting that this is only a temporary solution. Like, the option that's given to us, and when that occurs, is that we then need to future-proof little angels for kids coming behind us.
And do you get the impression that option A is more likely to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okie doke. We'll leave it at that then. All right, Aoife, listen, thanks. Well done to you and the rest of the families for doing what you did. And it's all about the kids, isn't it? And hopefully it's successful. I think that's what we all want. And if it is, credit where it's due. We just, as you say, want to avoid a situation whereby it's a new crop of parents that we're chatting to next year or the year after.
Absolutely, Greg.
All right. Take care, Aoife. Thanks very much indeed. Aoife Dorian, well done. That seems like another campaign that is on the brink of achieving its goals, which I think is very important. How in heaven's name can the unelected Ursula von der Leyen hope to be respected in negotiations on our behalf with President Trump? A headhunter chieftain from Papua New Guinea would be about as congenial, Brian Flanagan says. Greg, I have a question that I haven't heard answered yet. Is the EU charging American tariffs already, or is this something that Trump made up? There are tariffs, but as I said a little earlier on, there's a crude way in which the tariffs have been, these percentages have been worked out. It seems, and I was able to do it with a couple of them, and it seems to be the case that where there's a deficit, they have divided, the administration have divided the American imports from the EU into the American exports to the EU, or vice versa. Sorry, the exports from America to the EU is divided into the exports from the EU into America. So it's not actually tariffs. It's just a way they've worked it out. And there's a trade deficit of 40-odd%. Right, and they're saying, well, hold on a second, you should be buying as much of our products as we should be buying of yours. So it's called tariffs, but really it seems to be a way that they've an equation they've used to work out what is actually a deficit, a trade deficit, and the percentage of the trade deficits. What goods do we buy from America? Well, where does it begin and where does it end? I'll get a list of them, actually. It might be quite an interesting little exercise. But services are also part of an economy as well. It doesn't always have to be physical goods. Greg, I have a question that I haven't heard before. You have, because I just read it out. I received a parcel at Christmas from America. It was worth $27. I paid $31.80 in revenue I was allowed to receive it. The tariff should have been sorted out long ago. We've been paying extra for years. There's different VAT rates as well, though. It is a complex area. That's just not like a tariff on American goods. We have VAT rates and what have you. And listen, at the end of the day, some of this is designed, and you see it particularly with cars. Like the EU is charging tariffs on Chinese cars coming into the EU to protect the EU car trade, right? So we are not getting best value cars, the BYDs or what have you, because they are being, there's tariffs to make them less attractive for us to purchase. So that's kind of the way it works, Right, let me take a break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Make great photos into beautiful gifts at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Different gift ideas include canvas prints, freestanding or ready-to-hang art blocks, and personalised photo books, perfect to mark any occasion. There's also jigsaws, calendars, mugs, and much more. For details, visit mcgees.ie. Turn your favourite moments into something truly special with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
Tesco Club Card gives you the power to more, helping you celebrate Easter. Gather the family around the dinner table with our finest certified Irish Angus Chateaubriand, now half price. Have a cracking time with selected Easter eggs like Kit Kat Chunky, Smarties and Milky Bar, 5 for €5. And get drinks for everyone with Diet Coke and Coke Zero 12 packs, €8 each. Get more from your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. Shop in store or online. Tesco. Every little helps. Available in most stores. Prices vary and express. DRS applies. Quotas may apply.
Want to win €5,000 towards your dream Donegal wedding? The Gallant family, with their 3 stunning venues, is here to make your special day unforgettable. From the award-winning Villa Rose and Jackson's Hotels in Ballybuffet to the cosy charm of Anchurch Hotel in Gidor, we've got the perfect setting for your perfect day. Visit gallantgroup.com today.
Tina Turner. That is mine.
Want to show someone that you think they're simply the best? Or do you have a proud Mary you want to spoil? West End mega hit Tina, the Tina Turner musical, is coming to Bordgash Energy Theatre, Dublin as part of its first ever Ireland tour. Join Highland Radio on Friday the 6th of June for an unforgettable trip. Set to a soundtrack of Tina's greatest hits, this inspirational and exhilarating story celebrates the life of the Queen of Rock and Roll. Trip includes luxury coach travel, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel on a bed and breakfast basis, and ticket to the show. Contact us today on 9125000 or check out the outlet on highlandradio.com to book your place now.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Discover trending new styles each week in fashion, footwear, accessories, homeware and more. Visit us to explore the latest arrivals in store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
So largely dry and sunny, although breezy and a freshening easterly wind. Temperatures 13 to 17 degrees. Right, now a couple of things here. In terms of what we import primarily from the United States, aircraft, spacecraft. All right, so this is, the likes of Ryanair, Boeing, and all that kind of stuff. Right, 7.5 billion. That was 24. Pharmaceutical products we imported from America, 4.57 billion. Machinery, nuclear reactors, boilers, 2.9 billion. Optical, photo, technical, medical apparatus, 1.8 billion. Electrical equipment, 1.7 billion. Mineral, fuels, oil, distillation products, 1.3 billion. And plastics, 857 million, and on it goes. So, we do buy a lot of stuff from the United States. There is obviously going to be a trade deficit between us and the United States, but anyway, that is what it is. But it's not like we're not buying nothing, as they say. Radio. Let us go to our next guest just after one final reminder for you that after 11 Paul McLaughlin's going to be joining me in studio. He's our resident gardener from Ballochder Garden Centre. So if you have any questions, get in touch 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. Father Francis Bradley is parish priest in Burt, Inch, Fawn, Desert Tegney and Lower Fawn. Good morning to you, Father. Thank you very much for your time today.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning to your listeners.
Last time I spoke to you, I think you were near Father Hegarty's rock. Maybe it was a bit of a recce for an important event taking place this week.
Well, as it happens, Providence provides. Yeah, It was exactly that, and I was standing right at the edge of the rock as I was interviewed by you last week on other things. Yeah.
So, what's happening on Friday, April 4th? Because it's significant, with significant guests there as well.
It is indeed. No one who is a visitor to Buncrana or the environs can really say that they have completed their visit until they've walked to Father Hegarty's rock. And one of the things that people say about coming home is when they come round the corner there at Fawn to the lookout, as it's called, and they see the vast beauty of Lough Swilly opening before them, and Dunree on one side and Fanad on the other, and they know that they're home. But they often say that they really only know that they're home when they've walked to Father Hegarty's rock. It's a place where everyone goes, everyone walks. Even those who find it difficult to walk always have a great sense of achievement when they make it out there. And some, for the more athletic, then they go on to Stragill and walk the beach and then make the return journey back. So it's a place that's marked by just a lovely sense of joy and hope for people. It was marked, I suppose, just over 300 years ago by the death of the man who now gives it its name, Father Seamus Hegarty, a Dominican friar who was beheaded there in other times for his defence of the gospel values.
Why there, Father Francis, do we know? I mean, obviously the significance is that awful act and its location. Is there significance beyond that as well?
Well, I guess it was in an effort to escape that he was carnavalled, as we say, back in Tyrone, and he was taken there. The story goes that he was sold out by his brother-in-law. He was hiding, as priests had to do at the time, in a cave close by, and he was a big man by repute. He was 6'7" tall, and the statue is exactly the same height as he is reputed to have been. It wasn't easy for a man like that to crouch day and night in a cave and hiding, and his sister came and brought him food. But somehow or other, it's said that it was her husband who, for a variety of reasons and motivations, then sold him out to those who were searching for him at the time.
£5 was the price of this man's life, really. That was the reward, which is really quite shocking, isn't it?
It is. Well, when we think that in this time of Lent, we're shortly going to commemorate the moment when his Lord and Master was sold out for 30 silver pieces. So £5 at the time wasn't bad going.
And there is quite a fascinating story in Father Hegarty's attempt to escape and being beckoned back to land in the promise of surviving, and it must have just been an absolutely horrific experience, and then for that fate to await him on his return. Who commissioned the statue, and I suppose who is responsible for its sculpting? Is that the correct phraseology?
Yes. Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, I can tell you that it was dreamed of, commissioned, and executed in the proper sense, and now will be dedicated entirely in Donegal. Donegal County Council are and someone specific within that, particularly Fiona Doherty, is the brain this is her brainchild. In fact, in so many ways, she and her staff and others, the arts officer Trela Kofianon, and a number of others, engineers, the archaeologist Kate Robb, the various people, and of course the entire council can claim this, because they are the soul of this, really. And then it was commissioned. There was advertising put out, and a local artist called Rory Harnan, who works from Burt. He sculpted this amazing depiction of this wonderful man, and it is spirited.
Yes,
His
I was going to
hand
say
was guided by something more than himself.
You've preempted my next question. It gets the Father Francis Bradley seal of approval, then, I take it?
It certainly does, and it will get... I very much doubt if anyone looking at it will not approve of it. I'd be very surprised, and I'd be glad to hear from them about why they don't.
Amongst
it is absolutely amazing.
A very special guest on Friday, the Pope's representative in Ireland, the Papal Nuncio, Archbishop Louis Mariano Montemayor, that his presence lends even more to the significance of the statue itself, but also the unveiling of it.
It does indeed, because Charlie McConalogue, our local TD and one of our local TDs, and a minister in the present cabinet, he, together with the Apostolic Nuncio Luis Mariano Montemayor, will unveil the statue. And I think this is significant. It will be in the presence of people from across the political sphere, in the presence of ecumenical friends from across the Christian tradition, in the presence of people who really may not have much faith, but who just know that there's something beautiful about this place and are able to appreciate it in their hearts and souls.
Yes, and of course at the time when, other ways were found to mark it, I mean, they would have been significant at that time as well. But I think this gives the importance of this rock and Father Hegarty's life story and his contribution. It gives it the absolute significance it deserves at a spot, as you say, that is so frequently visited. It really marks the spot.
It really does. And, very powerfully, the sculpture depicts him holding forth a penal cross. And the cross isn't facing him, it's facing away from him. And if you take a direct line from where he's looking directly at the lookout at Fawn. He is looking direct, in that line, directly is the edge of the pier in Buncrana, the edge of the launch pad at Ned's Point. And I'm just thinking of all the things that we have associated with that, not least the RNLI, who set sail either from Ned's Point or from the pier according to weather and tidal conditions. And they will set sail now every time, blessed in a sense by this statue, and or through the idea that's expressed in that statue. And it will be lovely tomorrow, as far as I'm aware. The lifeboat will be moored out just off the shore during this ceremony, and it's lovely to think that the crew people there that will be blessed as part of this as well, because they are doing the work today that Father Seamus Hegarty would have loved to have people do back then, and the type of gift and spirit that he embodies is embodied now in the RNLI boat crews and in so many other ways by all the people coming together, a great coalition of the willing, the hopeful, who will be there tomorrow to celebrate this lovely moment.
Yes, and many people will have the joy over the summer, hopefully, and beyond in visiting the rock and seeing this wonderful statue. Father Hegarty, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy tomorrow. It's a joyous thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, and so we hope that Highland Radio will be there to cover it and to bring great news reports back to people, because this is a great moment of celebration for the county, and not only for Buncrana.
Father Francis Bradley, Guramahagut, thank you so very much.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Donegal begin the defence of their Anglo-Celt Cup this Sunday. The Ulster Championship gets up and running in Ballybuffet with Jim McGuinness's side taking on neighbours Derry. Join me, Oisín Kelly, and former Donegal star forward and our big match analyst Brendan Devaney for full match coverage from 1:40pm this Sunday afternoon.
Donegal action in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship is brought to you by Highland Motors Letterkenny with the all-new Dacia Duster. Explore new horizons and become part of the huge success story that is the Dacia Duster. Now available in hybrid and petrol.
The costs don't stop if you lose your job, so a sudden loss in income can be hard. That's why we are introducing Job Seekers Pay-Related Benefit to help people who have been working and lose their job. This scheme will be available to those who become unemployed from the 31st of March. To find out if you are eligible, visit gov.ie/JPRB. A Government of Ireland initiative brought to you by the Department of Social Protection.
New this week in Home Store and More. All Rattan Garden furniture is 33% off. But better hurry, because when all our 33% off Rattan Garden furniture is gone, it's gone. We have a great range of Rattan Garden furniture, from corner sets to dining and bistro sets. Like our Parma Rattan Corner Sofa set, only $499.50. Or our Sereno 7-piece Rattan Dining set, only $299.50. Drop by your local Home Store and More. Visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Mike Denver in concert with special guest Red Hurley at the Millennium Forum Derry on Saturday, April 5th. Tickets at Millennium Forum box office and also online. That's Mike Denver with guest Red Hurley at the Millennium Forum on Saturday, April 5th.
Being a grown-up means Paul has to buy his own Easter egg from Aldi this year. But it also means he can get exactly what he wants. A specially selected ripple egg. And a Roisin's honeycomb egg, made in Ireland for dessert. Plus, 2 specially selected Belgian truffle-filled eggs, which he's now hiding in the garden, because it's all about the kids, really. Good food, good mood, from Aldi.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
We're going to be in the garden and so much more in the next hour, but let's get a news update at 11 o'clock and say good morning again to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. One of the parents whose children face not having a place at the new Little Angel School in Letterkenny in September say they're hopeful that places will be secured. Aoife Dorian and other parents met with Minister Michael Moynihan in Leinster House last evening after travelling to Dublin for a national sleep out and demonstration. She says the minister told the parents that 2 preferred options are on the table, with a meeting to take place early next week, after which an announcement is expected. A former chair of the International Fund for Ireland says there is a resilience in Irish industry and business which will come to the fore as the tariff debate rages following yesterday's announcement by US President Donald Trump. On today's 9 to Noon show, Paddy Hart said this is not the time for panic and he believes the effects of the announcement are not likely to be as severe as some are predicting. Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty, meanwhile, believes last night's announcement was economic sabotage. The Taoiseach says there is no doubt that the red weather warning issued ahead of Storm Éowyn saved lives. Answering questions from a number of TDs, including South Donegal Deputy Eamon Scanlon, Micheál Martin said the death of 20-year-old Casper Dudek in Donegal after a tree fell on his car during January's storm was a tragedy. However, he said the situation could have been much worse. Midlands North West MEP Kieran Mullooly has urged the Taoiseach, meanwhile, to immediately publish the Gaeltacht housing blueprint, highlighting the urgent need for planning reforms. Speaking in the European Parliament, he argued that the delay threatens both housing provision and the survival of the Irish language in regions such as Donegal. A civic reception is to be held to recognise 100 years of continuous political demonstration on Donegal County Council on Donegal County Council by the Blaney family. Neil Blaney was first elected to the council in 1925, and since then further generations of the family have been successful in obtaining a seat on the local authority. And emergency services remain at the scene of a fire in County Derry this morning. The Barn Alt Road outside Cloddy is currently closed as a result. Police are advising that the road is closed until its junction with the old Fort Glen Road. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Michaela, I didn't let you finish. Thanks very much. Chat to you at 12.
If your dog chases after sheep, it's not your dog's fault. If your dog attacks a flock, savaging sheep and lambs, it's not your dog's fault. So wherever you bring them, keep them under control at all times. Because whatever they do, it's not your dog's fault. It's yours.
Your dog is your responsibility. Visit gov.ie/dogs to find out more. A message from the Government of Ireland.
Okay, so as you know, we're very community orientated on this show, and that's what it's all about, really. 9 times out of 10, it's supporting communities across our beautiful region. And I want to mention a couple of things that are upcoming. Firstly, there's a quiz night tomorrow night, the 4th of April. It's a Goose and Gander in Downings. That's the Pisier there, of course. Registrations from 8:30 p.m. Quiz starts at 9 p.m. Teams of 5 to 6 people with a maximum of... teams of 5 to 6 people max. It's €10 per person to enter. It's going to be great crack, and there's going to be raffle prizes on the night. Everyone is welcome, and it's the support Skull Owen Bastia. Okay, so that's tomorrow night in the lovely setting of the Goose and Gander in Downings, and something else is taking place as well. There is a quiz. Let me just double check when that quiz is taking place. Right, okay, it is tonight, isn't it? The 3rd of April, yep, sorry about that. I just can you imagine if I announced something right and it's for the wrong place at the wrong time. So, there's a quiz night tonight in the Arena 7. It starts at 9 p.m, and Arena 7, of course, is at the Ballyrain Industrial Estate. And it's to benefit the Irish Guide Dogs, Donegal and Rotary International. So that's tonight. Entry is 20 notes, and it's a team of 4. And there's raffle prizes as well. So there's 2 quizzes. One tonight in Arena 7 for the Irish Guide Dogs. And then we have another one tomorrow night. And I'm sure there's much more happening all over the place tomorrow night in the Goose and Gander in Downings. A caller says, what's so great about nepotism? It equals no change in the constituency where political positions are handed from one family member to another, often without an election, as in Donegal. I think they must be referencing the recent co-option onto Donegal County Council there. How lovely to see the children from Scullmore gone small at daily 10 a.m. Mass during Lent. They behaved so respectfully. Well done, teachers, for encouraging them. That comes in from Kathleen. The tariffs are based on non-service based trade, which is why everyone gets hit, because the US's main export is in services. So basically, he's a fool, they say. That's okay. Greg, all experts will have their differing opinions. I've been listening to many of them since last night and all morning since 7 a.m. But the fact is, in this deck of cards, America itself will fall first, and the domino effect will take a while, but will eventually lead to world economic collapse, which I posted to Highland over 14 months ago. And also years before that, when there was not a whisper of Trump or Trump's tariffs. Thanks, Mary. Hi, Greg. I think these tariffs will definitely cause a downturn in our economy with massive job losses in the medium term. Local government should be planning for this now and stop wasting money. Morning. Will there be an additional tariff on pharma, or is that included in the 20%? We've covered that a couple of times. There is provision under... Section 4 of the document he released yesterday, which may pave the way for a specific pharma tariff. And he talked, he talks off script a lot. He talked specifically about pharmaceuticals and the fact that America is not independent in terms of disease outbreak or war or whatever it might be. He mentioned that specifically. So I would bet my last euro that we will be getting a pharmaceutical specific announcement in the next wee while. But it's going to be okay, everyone. You know, we have to talk about these things, but it doesn't mean you have to get worried or stressed. You know, we will find a way. We always do, don't we? And we rely, hopefully we can rely on government or what government is empowered to lessen the blow on the general population. Right, Paul McLaughlin of Ballagher Garden Centre. How are you getting on, Paul?
Not so bad, Greg.
1 second here, just to get you framed. I noticed this morning coming in, there's just little places where you get, if there's going to be any frost, it's going to be there.
Mhm.
So, let's not run away. Let's not get carried away. It's still, I think we've got summer weather and spring temps.
Yeah, pretty much.
Feels like that.
Yeah, I know there's been a wee bit of frost this morning, all right. So it's just pretty much around here up to almost the start of May. There's always a danger of it. And funny, in terms of plants, in terms of that sort of frost now is more of a problem than it is in the dead of winter, because the plants have actively started to grow and the wee soft leaves are already on the top of them and they're more susceptible to frost almost than the rest.
I see there was a diktat put out by authorities in Britain urging people not to cut their lawns.
Yes.
For no other reason, presumably, than for the environment or what have you. I mean, there's two things going. A, is it too early to cut your lawn? But B, I think you advocate sort of leaving a bit of lush on there for nature.
Yes, absolutely. Sort of April is the main month whenever bees and pollinators, a lot of them are sort of hatching out and they're coming out very hungry, and now is whenever the queen bees are establishing their nests. So plants like dandelions that flower up at this time of year are very important for them. So that's where the whole process of sort of no mow May and all came along, that people are, for the benefit of pollinators, leaving their lawn that a wee bit longer. And it's probably maybe I'm just lazy, if you know what I mean. But
I know, but
there's always the longer it stays in the shade, the better.
I think too, though, for us, a lot of the time it's how your grass grows, and sometimes it can be quite sparse in some areas and then quite lush in the others, depending where your septic tank might be, or little variables like that there, and it can look unattractive.
Exactly.
And
no,
you get your first cut and you go, you know what, actually that looks pretty now.
Yeah, pretty much at the minute everybody's itching to go, like they've been in all winter and they're just looking for jobs outside.
The amount of draw pulls or whatever they're called that are going to be snapping.
Absolutely. A wee bit of petrol leaks on them, and just the weekend over the
beeswax. You mentioned bees. The best thing apparently you can put on those cables is beeswax, and it means they don't get rigid in the winter.
Right.
So that when you actually pull on it, particularly for boats, obviously, because the seawater and all that type of
would be
stuff.
sore on them, all right.
Beeswax is supposed to be fantastic.
I've snapped many in my day.
I would say. Right now, so weather-wise, the gardens didn't take a hammering necessarily with heavy snow for long periods of time or extreme cold spells that I can recall. But obviously we'd Storm Eowyn, which is going to have given hedges and trees quite the battering.
Yes, funny, a lot of people's gardens have been sort of remodeled by the storm, if you know what I mean. Like a lot of trees people have been living with basically for their lifetime are just gone now. So the whole sort of landscape appears different to people, so it's going to take a wee bit of getting used to. So it will, as much as anything else. But like you say, the frost hasn't been that bad this year. It's not been a particularly cold winter. So hopefully now if we get a good spring and summer, we'll be happy enough.
Right, so what can we be doing generally before we get to some questions? And if you do want to get some questions into us, of course, you've been busy already, but 086 60 25,000. So what's the basics now? Hopefully people are fit and well and can get out, and it's going to maintain dry and not terribly cold over the weekends. So what can we be doing?
Weather like that is good to get out and about. And first thing I would always advocate for at the start of the year would be just a good general tidy up of your beds. Even like if you want to cut the lawn or whatever, if you don't, it's all right. But it's but just tidy up the bed, sort of give them a rake round, remove all the debris that's maybe lying about since the storm, and just sort of stand back then and take a look at it and see what sort of needs attention, what doesn't, if you know what I mean.
Do you feed those beds now? Do you
Yes,
try and enrich
exactly.
the soil?
Yes, my old friend, the poultry manure.
Good
just
stuff.
Give a wee shot, just as stuff's starting to grow now, but spread a wee bit about in general. Invigorates the soil generally, and it's organic, so it only releases over quite a slow period.
Yeah.
But it'll generally just put a wee bit of vigor into your beds.
There are going to be stuff that's already out that's going to be starting to bud and what have you. In terms of planting out, we talked about the frost, and there was actual frost in parts this morning.
Yeah.
It still could be a bit cold, could it?
For your summer flowers, that sort of thing, people are mad to get going, if you know what I mean. But no, we would always advocate wait till at least May for that sort of stuff. Shrubs of that, if they've been outside in a garden, send that perfect plant away.
They're going to come out. They're going to
Exactly.
start seeing.
Yeah.
They're going to start budding.
For
and all
bigger
that kind of
stuff, plant away. But for like say your flowers of that, leave it a wee while yet.
If people are looking for some fruit and veg, later in the year, is now a good time to look at that? And if so, how?
Yes, now is perfect time if you want to if you're new to growing stuff like people who grow their vegetables would have been at it probably St. Patrick's Day. It's generally the first kick off for that. People get the potatoes and onions, peas, beans, that sort of stuff. But now, anytime through the month of April is perfect to get going. Most garden centres now would have the wheat transplants, so like they've already grown from seed.
And what kind of stuff can you throw in the ground now? What you've just mentioned?
Pretty much. The most popular ones would be sort of potatoes, onions, peas, beans.
Yeah.
And your various cabbages, and then
that's if you've got and also too, if you were using a polytunnel, they took a while hammering.
Oh, they did, surely. That's what I've been at since the storm, more or less, just refixing polytunnels and put new ones.
But you don't actually need a polytunnel for some of the stuff we're talking
pretty
about.
Much. Like your polytunnels comes in for your tomatoes, peppers, that sort of stuff.
How keen are people on planting? You know, there seemed to be a bit of a surge in it. Is that still happening? And why do you think people are moving towards growing their own stuff that's quite hardy? It's easy enough to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Funny, there's a few reasons. A lot of people sort of, it had become popular, and then whenever COVID came along, everything seemed to go kind of mad. A lot of people got into it, supposed to have more time and everything else. And maybe at that stage they saw that it wasn't difficult. So they've sort of kept it up. But now as well, there's sort of more environmental issues. People are sort of more aware of their food. They want to know what sort of chemicals are involved. And obviously if you grow it yourself, you have control over that. Even the traceability, air miles, stuff like that. People are getting interested in. And funny, you'd hear it a lot. We would do a lot of work with schools and stuff. And people are very much of the opinion that the field skills have been lost almost for the next generation, and they're anxious for sort of to pass on any knowledge they have to their children and bring it on that way, you know.
Yeah, and I talked about this weekend. I mean, you have most of April to get that stuff done, so you don't have to stress yourself getting it all done this weekend. Can I dig a bit more deeper into the lawn side of things? Because we always get a lot of questions in relation to that. So, you know, if you are going to cut it high. You talked about cleaning up. I presume that's any debris, leaves or anything like that there. What about if you know, this is where maybe people are starting to see patches of moss, you know, that stuff kept going over winter and now they're starting to see the grass grow in some places that are patchy and what have you. What can you be doing about that?
Pretty much, it's I suppose since the storm there's been a lot of debris lying about and stuff. Most people probably would have cleaned up by now. If you haven't, it's a good idea to sort of rake it up now, because anything lying on the lawn sort of encourages dampness to stay in that spot. And so if you get rid of all that sort of stuff, give it a good raking over, and hopefully if you haven't a bad case of moss, the rake will take a lot of it out. You get machines there you can hire from most hire companies called scarifiers, are very good. They sort of they're like a power rake, and they can pull out a lot of the moss.
It's not going to look pretty after you do that.
Pretty much not. We'll look scalped for probably a few weeks at the stage of the year.
So it'll look worse before it gets better.
Exactly. But even if after the scarifying, if you have a few sort of bare spots, get a wee bit of grass seed, sprinkle them on.
So in terms of patching grass seed, there's different grass seed, isn't there? And some of it might not be, like, I don't recall ever putting grass seed down, but ended up with, I think it might have been just with the native grass that's around the place, you know, that sort of way. So how do you colour match so you don't end up with a really rich, high quality patch and everything else is tat?
I suppose there's sort of three main grades of grass seed. You have number one, which would be like your golf greens, bowling green, that sort of stuff. Number two would be like just standard lawn, if you know what I mean. And then number three would be almost what a farmer would use in the field.
Yeah.
So generally, what you're looking at, you get various mixes in them numbers, but most garden centres, most sort of farming places for lawn seed would have number two. So you may not, with different nutrients, and sort of if you put extra fertiliser on with it, you may not get a colour match for the first year, but after that it should all.
If any rushes or you know those round stingy things.
Oh yes,
what are they called again?
thistles.
Yeah, do you dig them out? What do you do?
You can dig them if you haven't a huge crop of them. You can dig them out, all right. So it's good enough to go along and just physically remove them, probably the more environmentally friendly way. But actually, if you're using a scarifier, that will actually
that's going to rip them
out.
out. Okay, and in terms then of spiking, why might one spike the lawn? Is that
generally the soil we have around here is very heavy, and if it's in an area of compaction, like where people have been walking or even where stuff's been lying, it becomes very sort of solid and water struggles to pass through it. So if you give it a spiking, if you have a small area, just get a garden fork.
Or you can hire them as well, actually.
Yeah, you can hire the spiker too, which are very good. They're like a hollow type thing. It pulls out an actual plug. But if you do go to the bother of doing that job even with the fork or the hollow type machine, it's a good idea to get a bag of sand or something
fill the hole.
and go to fill the holes, because that keeps them open.
Yeah, of course. And in terms of what you might apply to your lawn, is it feeding time? You know, if you say, for instance, you're not going to do your first cut to the first week in May or something, like what's good to put down on it now?
Generally, springtime, you go for a slightly higher nitrogen level in the fertilizer, basically. Go for a higher nitrogen. It really boosts it on, keeps the growth going nicely. So it does. So normally we would advocate cut it, leave it for maybe 4 or 5 days, and then apply your fertilizer. Leave it for another week and then cut it. Just because you've removed a lot of the thing to removed a lot of the sort of thatch and dead grass to actually allow it to work.
Okay, we're in conversation with Paul McLaughlin, gardener at Ballochder Garden Centre. It's our first really garden, plant, tree, hedge-focused conversation of the year. And why not? Because the weather's lovely out. And we have your questions coming up. We're going to take a quick break. Keep your questions coming into us, though. 086 60 25,000. We'll be back with that Q&A after we take this quick break.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Joe Gallagher Entertainment presents the Ultimate 70s Night, Sunday, October 26th. Get ready for Shawaddy Waddy and the Bay City Rollers live at the Mount Erigal Hotel, Letterkenny. Sing and dance the night away to all the hits. Tickets on sale at ticketmaster.ie and hotel reception. Don't miss this unforgettable night, October 26th at the Mount Erigal Hotel, Letterkenny.
Heading off on holiday? Don't forget to park to relax. Travelling for business? Well, then just park to work. Flying for a city break? Simply park to explore. No matter where you're going, you'll find safe, secure shuttle parking just 6 minutes from the airport at Dublin's newest airport car park, Park 2 Travel. Book online now to guarantee your space, and then simply park to go. Park2travel.ie. For when you need to park to, well, travel.
Is minic éin éfachtaí feibanna féchas fersanta haar chórsaí airgid a siobháin. Is iad na rudaí nach míonling ag go thuirtearthu a déadfach a bheith na gúis len ar mea. Gwyl an stros earth, tien cadrab in olcus. Déadfach se mothú go bhfuil an saoigh titama sa chéile ach tá cabhair ar fáil. Fáir eisiir an móthir le service doch bhíonachta na hÉireann, agraíocht neamhsplach a chabhraíonn le feibanna féchas fersanta a réadach. Feic backandtrack.ie le takeíocht ó réaltas na hÉireann.
At DoorTech Garage Door Systems in Kilmacrennan, we specialise in the supply and installation of all types of industrial roller doors and garage doors. Whether for your home, business or farm, our doors offer the security you need. For premium quality doors, call DoorTech on 9139941 or visit doortech.ie.
Highland Radio Time Checks brought to you by EirGrid, the operator and developer of Ireland's electricity grid. EirGrid, powering up communities, powering up Ireland. The time is...
The time now is 19 minutes past 11. Our resident gardener with me, Paul McLaughlin. Right, Paul, let's get to some of these questions then. Can we grow basil in this country in window boxes? And if so, when's the best time? Thank you kindly.
Yes, basil can be tough to grow. So it's one of the tougher herbs, the Mediterranean herbs. So our climate may not be the best for it. A lot of people would buy sort of the wee plants in supermarkets, try and grow them on that way, which can be a struggle because they're just the varieties you get in the supermarket wouldn't be ideal maybe for our climate. So the best thing would be to start from a packet of seeds, I think, because then you're sort of bringing it along in our climate from the whole of its life, if you know what I mean. So start away at this time of year, but maybe keep it inside the windowsill for a while, and then whenever you get into the summer, June, July, that you can move it outside for a while then.
Those wee pots of the stuff you can get, is that a bit of a novelty? You can't really, or can you, repot that when you get home, take some of the whatever it is that you're taking and it'll continue to grow.
Yeah, it's funny, some work better than others.
Right, okay.
Just some are better suited our climate. Like mint there would grow, it'll fly along. So we'll leave the ones from the supermarket because they're very vigorous plants, whereas the likes of the basil would struggle more. So
okay.
Parsley, that should grow happily enough too.
All right. We've a lovely big garden, but it's very wet in the middle. But we can't drain it as the septic tank is in the middle of the garden. We can't grow much either as we have wild deer and they eat everything. We want to put a hedge around the garden. Any recommendations for a hedge in the wet area?
A hedge in the wet area. There are a few options there. If it's a big garden, it's probably chatting a sort of deers and probably chatting a fairly rural environment, if you know what I mean. So someone's going to keep the deers back if you go for the likes of whitethorn. Obviously, by their nature, they're spiky, so the deers might be less inclined to eat it. Another one that would work quite well there would be hornbeam. It sort of mimics the beech. It has like the brown leaves in the winter time and all, but it's much more suited to wetter areas.
I just wondered too, separately to that, if that's an old septic tank that doesn't have the percolation area, because that really there should be no dampness around that tank. It should be. Yeah. I had to do that myself. I had to dig the garden up and pipe it, and it eliminated any of that dampness.
Yes, sometimes it's just the the nature where the septic tank is may not be connected to the septic tank itself, but it's just it's sort of in the way to
because
draw
they
the
often can
drains, if you know
sink.
what I mean.
It can sink a bit around them as well. Is this the time of year that you prune apple trees, and how in God's name do you prune them?
Yes, apple trees sort of it's one of the things people are kind of afraid of almost, that they don't want to do any damage or affect their crop as they go along. So there are a few basic rules. First thing you do is just sort of stand back, look at it, and remove any dead wood that might be in the middle of it. Like, 'cause there's no sort of doubt about that, if you know what I mean. Generally, any branch growing towards the centre of the plant, you remove as well, because apple trees you want to create like almost a vase shape that the apples grow on the outside.
You like
of
what
it.
we'd see in a kid's picture book.
Yeah, pretty much,
Really,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So probably for someone like that, there would be an advocate for sort of little and often. If you're in any doubt, do a wee bit this year.
So you're getting rid of stuff that's obviously dead and inward turning.
Yes, inward turning, and if anything's crossing, you get
Yeah.
rid of the things as the two branches rub on each other. They
In
can
the
create a
wind.
sort of fissure that
Yeah.
infection can get into.
Yeah, or you end up losing both branches, whereas you sacrifice one and maintain
sacrifice
the
the
other.
weaker one. Probably once again, YouTube would be your
And
friend
trust your
there.
common sense as well,
Mhm.
too, because
Yeah.
what some of the advice you've just given there is common sense.
Yeah.
Dead, inward growing, because about you talking about crops, and then the crossover because
Yeah.
of friction and what have you. I have a DCB house which is due for demolition soon in my garden. I have an apple and pear tree. They have to be removed and replanted elsewhere. How can I do this safely, or do I just have to chop them down?
Yes, no. Hopefully, we'd be able to. Hopefully, we'd be able to save them. No bother. Generally, you would have. Thank you. Generally, for someone like that, there, what you do now is the time of year to do it before it sort of leaves up. Then you're getting into bigger risk otherwise. But if you're doing a digger, as much soil as possible, and move them over to the new site. If they're too heavy to move, put them on a sheet of plastic and sort of drag them, and as much soil as possible, and give them a good watering in the new site, and they'll be happy enough.
Yeah, okay. Stick them on, see if you can hear me, because I want you to be able to hear. Deirdre. Hiya, Deirdre. Your question for Paul. Good morning to you.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Paul, I have a Christmas plant.
Yes.
It's not a cactus. You know the ones that you buy in the shops there that has the red leaves?
Yes, Poncietta, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I managed to keep mine now. I have it a year and a half,
Right.
and it's absolutely stunning. But I would need to cut it back because it's grown. Like, it's grown up now, Paul, and it's grown down and through it itself again.
Right. I know
But
what
I'm
you mean.
afraid to touch it in case I lost it.
Yes. So just,
How do I do it? How do?
I suppose once again, sort of similar to the apple trees, probably little enough. I would say just take a wee bit off it now and see how it reacts, like rather than too severe with
Okay.
it. Take a wee bit off
Yeah.
now, and if it's sort of growing vigorously enough after the fact, then maybe give it another chop in about a month's time, and take them down sort of gradually like that. But
What
just
would Deirdre need to avoid so that she doesn't actually kill it?
Yeah, pretty much just as you're doing it, because it can still be quite frosty and at this time of year. So if you are doing it, maybe don't leave it in like an northward facing windowsill or something like that, because it could catch a draft or someone just whenever it's sort of been sort of through an experience, shall we say?
Yeah.
But no, just I'd say little and often, and try and keep it going that way. And
Okay, perfect.
How's
Thank you very
How's
much.
it doing for potting? Is it getting pot bound yet, or is it?
No, it's good if I have it in a big pot.
Right,
So
very
I
good,
changed
very
the
now
pot the way back whenever,
Yeah.
way back
But now
last
you
year.
could give it a wee feed now as well with someone like you get like liquid houseplant food. So you
But you know what I'm feeding it, Paul? Black tea
black
every
tea,
2 days.
perfect. Yeah, no, black tea would be good. All right.
What's it called
Yeah.
again officially, Paul?
It's a Poncietta, I believe. Poncietta. P-U-N, yes.
Poncietta. I want to have a look at it. Stay away, y'all, Deirdre. I just want to have a look at this on the. Ooh, right, okay, yes. It looks like you sort of see you see them the paper effect or sort of light cloth effect on
Yeah.
the Chris. Wow, okay, that looks lovely. And how big is it, Deirdre?
Oh, it's massive.
And is it?
No,
is
they
it
never
all-
survive. You know, the thing
Yeah.
about it, usually Mum gets one or two maybe every year, but they never survive. And everybody comes into the house and saying to me, how you manage to keep that alive? We can never keep ours alive. So that's why I'm afraid to.
Funny, there's a friend of mine works in an office in Dublin, and they come around delivering them to the offices, and she's kept hers going for about 5 years or so. And the crowd supply them actually come along and give her free ones to take home because she's doing so well with them.
Yeah.
Well, mine is only starting to turn red now. The leaves is turning red on it now again.
Yeah.
So they'll be red for Christmas.
Oh, wowzers, okay.
So-
It is kind
They're
of
just
like the
going red now,
leaves. It is like the foliage and the leaves. It's like they're the same, but it's just some of it goes red.
Yes,
It's-
exactly.
it's-
A lot of plants do that. So they
Lovely.
do.
Okay, well, good. It's a nice wee project. Thanks, Deirdre. Good luck with that.
Lovely. Thank you
Take care
so
of
much,
yourself.
guys.
Bye bye. All right, it's an interesting one. Re-gardening, I have a patch near my fence that's a bit bald from getting a bit swampy and walking on it during the storms. Can you ask how I repair that section?
Yeah, to repair the likes of that there would be simple enough. Give it a good rake over for a start, and maybe in a wheelbarrow or something, mix up sort of some sand, soil, and lawn seed, and just spread it evenly over the top of it. Should do the trick.
Okay.
If it is swampy, the sand will help to actually just.
But also that's been compacted, like you talked of earlier, hasn't
exactly.
it? Of course, yeah. Why did my daffodils not get any flowers this year? Just the green stems came up, no flowers.
Yes, that's quite a common problem. All right, a lot of
Could
the
it
time,
be that they cut them last year?
That would be number one. That would be
Isn't
the
that,
first
I'm
question.
getting good at this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did they let them die naturally, or did they go over them with a lawnmower or a strimmer or something?
Yes, pretty much. The bulb itself is like a battery almost, but the energy from this year goes down into it, and that's what brings on next year. So that could be a possibility. And if they haven't done that, compaction is probably the problem. They expand and underground as they grow year on year. So maybe it'd be an idea at this time when they're finished flowering to actually dig them up, and if they're compacted, separate them out.
Right.
Replant half of them again and move the other one over for a new patch.
So in other words, there could be too many plants trying to draw nutrients from too little space, effectively.
Exactly. Pretty much every bulb sort of becomes 2 every year. Then
Right,
2 becomes
okay.
4, becomes 8. So they're going on that way.
How do I care for a new rhubarb plant recently planted?
Yes, rhubarb, notoriously hungry plant. So they are very good plants, very easily grown plants. They like sort of moistish ground. No, not overly wet, but sort of on the damper side rather than drier side, and hungry. So plenty of, if you had well rotted dung, something like that there, put it around the plant. Not on the
I
crown. but around the plant, it'll be happy enough.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
once-
thinking of that earlier caller with the damp patch in their lawn. Rhubarb would thrive.
Yes, so
in
they'll
there.
fly in that, all right. So
Of course, yeah. Can you use last year's lawn cuttings as a potato sowing fertilizer?
Yes, you can do, but I would be cautious. If it's last year's, if they're just grass cuttings, sometimes it can tend to be sort of slimy and that sort of thing, if you know what I mean. So,
But you take the top bit back and it can be almost like a glunk.
yeah, pretty much.
Right.
So very rich in nitrogen, so they're good enough fertilizer in the sense. But if that sort of gunkiness got on the potato, the actual seed potato would probably rot it, if you know what I mean. So probably the sensible thing to do would be put maybe an inch and a half on top of your row, leave it for a few days to dry out, and then actually just dig it through the soil before you plant your
get
potatoes.
you. Yeah, so
And
you
that would-
don't want to smother.
Exactly,
what you're
yeah,
trying
because
to-
it could almost bring in rot if they had that sort of moist stuff with it.
I'm not sure if this caller means inside or out, but what are the best flowers to plant at this time of year?
Best flowers plant this time of year, sort of anything from seed. If you want all the summer stuff, if you want to start with seed now, will fly along. So it would. If you want someone big and spectacular, dahlias, you can get them now at the minute. They're like bulbs almost, or root pieces, anything like that there. So pretty much just think of what you like, and for the most part now is seed planting time.
Yeah,
So
it's
you can-
green for go,
Yeah.
and presumably internally to begin with. Wait till they come
Yes.
on, and then hopefully at that
Exactly.
point the weather's improved.
Yeah.
Do you need a greenhouse or a polytunnel, I suppose, to grow tomatoes?
The short answer would be more than likely yes.
Yeah.
I've heard of a few people in Derry, like would be sort of in urban environments that would have south-facing walls and very sheltered, that have managed to grow tomatoes outside. But generally up here, greenhouse or polytunnel would be the way to go.
I've just scarified my lawn. Will scattering lawn seed on the grass overseeding now be of any benefit, or would it just be wasted doing it now?
Yes, it would be of benefit. The only thing you have to keep an eye on is it's forecast to be dry for the next week. So
Which we have.
Yeah, in that case, a week drying to sit on top of the ground probably would scorch it. So by all means sow it, but if it's a smaller area, just go out to the hose every couple of
Yeah.
days and just keep it damp like that.
Makes sense.
And keep an eye out for birds. Maybe it might be worth putting up a couple of CDs or something to keep them away.
I have a large, a couple of David James CDs. They'll not go near it. I have a laurel hedge planted. In fact, put them in and played them. No, I'm only joking.
Is he out there, is he?
No, please listening. I have a laurel hedge planted for 2 years. Leaves are going yellow, and the ends are dying. Anything I can do to save them?
Yes, that's once again, laurel's another notoriously hungry plant. So now at this time of year, perfect. Get your poultry manure on it, and that'll bring it on nicely. And the reason it's sort of getting damaged at the ends is the plant's not healthy and it's not able to fight off sort of bugs and stuff. So get it well fed now, and it'll start growing now in May, and it'll be flying hopefully.
Do you have any tomato plants in down there yet?
We have, but they're still quite small. We're just growing them on in the heat at the minute, and so you'll be chatting probably into another 2-3 weeks.
Okay. Fast growing hedges. Everyone wants a hedge, but they can't. They don't want to wait
on
the
it.
4 or 5 years.
Yes, exactly. A few options there. The notorious one probably was the Lelandis is the fastest growing. Some people still want them, if you know what I mean.
But you have to look after them, but they're brilliant if you look after them.
Brilliant, but once they get out of hand, they can be problematic. So our number one hedge would sell over anything else would be Gristlinia, which is a fast growing evergreen, sort of glossy green leaves, and makes a very attractive hedge.
Last one then, it's all we have time for. I have a large overgrown pampas grass and I'm wondering what your advice to care for it is. The outside is dead, the inside is green.
Yes. Traditional way of dealing with them, cutting them back, is fire actually. Obviously you'd have to be sure that you're in a very safe environment. There's nothing around it would catch fire. People used to stuff the middle with newspapers and light them and basically let them burn to the ground, and that's how you get rid of all the dead stuff and won't do the plant any harm, and he'll just within a few weeks will start coming up from the ground again. But obviously be very, very careful with it.
What about those sort of torches you can get for taking weeds?
Blowtorch, yeah, we'll do the trick all right, Di. So,
you can get them sometimes for the...
Yes, but obviously don't use any sort of accelerant like petrol or diesel or anything on it. Would actually...
I'd be worried if we have to give that advice.
Yes.
But I do understand that you feel the need.
Yeah, but obviously if it's near a neighbour's property or anything else, just be more than careful.
Is there an alternative other than to kill it with fire?
You can just cut them off at the ground, but they're very sharp and it's actually very hard to cut. Because they're so stringy and
interesting. Paul, it's been a pleasure. It's been great. We the summer's here.
Yes,
all the
long may it continue.
Paul McLaughlin of Ballochdower Garden Centre, and not just Ballochdower Garden Centre, but all of our brilliant garden centres that we have right across the region. There's brilliant people in there like Paul who bring in your photos, bring in your questions, and he's more than happy to deal with the public and
absolutely
and help them.
Only too happy to chat about plants.
All right, back with more shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
On Business Matters this week, we'll hear from Bank of Ireland Area Operations and Risk Manager Jimmy Stafford about the changing face of banking, a Cove man's love for Donegal, and his thoughts on a second term as President of Letterkenny Chamber. So join me, Chris Ashmore, for Business Matters after the 6 o'clock news on Sunday.
Business Matters on Highland Radio is brought to you by Local Enterprise Office Donegal. If you have an idea to start or grow your business within Donegal, contact the Local Enterprise Office to find out more about the supports available for businesses. See localenterprise.ie/Donegal.
If you have PRSI, you can get free hearing devices at Specsavers. Now, we know what you're thinking. Oh, if they're free, they're bound to be those big old-fashioned ones that do this kind of thing, as well as this kind of thing. But actually, they just do this kind of thing. Amazing sound from a rechargeable piece of tech so small you can barely see it. All completely free. So book a free hearing check at Specsavers now, because OK Hearing is not OK. On hearing devices up to €1,000, terms and conditions apply. See our website for details.
Every decision, moment and experience has shaped who I am today. I still live at home with the support of a wonderful team who provide home care with respect for who I am, empowering me to live my life my way.
Your life, your way. Visit dovida.ie.
Stop everything! iMotors is bringing you the biggest used car event of the year. From Thursday, April 10th to Saturday, April 12th. We've got over 250 quality used cars. Every brand, every engine type, and a deal with your name on it. Buy any car and spin the wheel. You're guaranteed to win €500 or €1,000 off. Plus, every car comes with up to 12 months warranty. 3 days only. Get down to iMotors and drive away happy.
iMotors. Fearless generation.
Hi folks, Nathan Carter here. Why not join myself and the band plus special guest Lisa McHugh for one night only at the Millennium Forum, Derry, Londonderry on Friday the 2nd of May. Tickets available from box office and from nathancartermusic.com.
Okay, Derek Long is with me now. Hi, Derek. Hello, Derek. Are you there?
Hello, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Derek, you have concerns about safety, and unfortunately we saw an awful tragedy which was referenced a little earlier during Storm A1. You're still concerned, are you, about trees at Tullyrap?
Yeah, absolutely. I live very close to it there, and that was a terrible tragedy. That young man lost his life. But what they did do was they done a very good job what they did do, but they stopped short of finishing the job. Further on up the road, about 50 or 100 yards, there's a number of trees just on the edge of the road, and some of them is actually leaning out over the past 50 years or whatever length of time they're growing, or 100 years maybe. And the lorries, any high-sided vehicle, has to cross the white line to get around them. And they're hanging, they're leaning out. And I think the same problem is going to happen again if we get a storm like what we had back 2 months ago.
Yeah, so it's not just the danger potentially of them falling onto the road. Obviously, if you've got large vehicles having to avoid these trees, that creates its own dangers in and of itself, doesn't it? If someone happened to be overtaking a large vehicle as it approached these trees, you never know what other drivers are capable of, Derek.
It's on the corners there, so
still.
there would be probably very little overtaken, but they did do work on the thing on the road there, but they didn't really straighten the road as such. They left a bit better vision, I suppose, but I can see it at the cars are actually travelling faster on it now because they can see round the corner, and they actually have been an accident since they
tragic
repaired the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously the road was closed for some time after that tragedy. Were they using that time to cut trees back or improve lines of sight, or what was happening?
That was the purpose of closing the road. They did cut down, and I was speaking to the tree surgeons, I suppose you call them, and they said that most of the trees was rotten in the centre, and that's what's going to happen to the other ones up here. The storm is going to. They actually are, one or two of them blew down, but they fell, lucky enough, and towards the field or the land rather than coming out to the road. But there's some of them is leaning out towards the road. And the same thing's going to happen again to some family because there's been a number of trees blew down over the years. Back 3 or 4 years ago, there was 2 cars trapped in between 2 trees that blew down maybe 5 years ago or so, and lucky enough there was no great damage done at the bonnet of the car.
We can't rely on luck, can we, Derek? We need to...
No, you can't, definitely not, no.
Have you any insight or any theory as to why, when they did do the good job that you talk of, that they didn't continue and take out the trees that others around them had already fallen?
I really do not know. I don't know why they stopped. I really did think that they were going to come back again because they had the road closed for a week or 10 days. And I really did think that they were going to come back and finish it. But now apparently they're doing a job further over the road, putting on some sort of big pipes or something, and they're working at it at the minute. They're putting down a foundation for some big crane to come and sit on to put on these pipes. And the road's going to be closed over a weekend. Now, unless the council is going to do something then again, but not that I have heard tell it anyway. And the high-sided vehicles, lorries, car transporters, tankers and things like that, they have to cross the white line to get round at least 3 of the trees as overhang. And then also what happened when they done the road work, they dug tracks and put on water pipes and things, and I think they've damaged a lot of the roots belonging to the trees, and it has left the trees now not maybe as stable as they would have been before they started all this work.
Right, Derek, listen, forewarned is forearmed. We'll make inquiries. Maybe they are going to return at some point. It might be part of a wider programme of works, but we'll check it out. All right.
It would be great to see them cut down and put back a bit further anyway.
Yeah, there's no doubt
Great,
that
you very much.
are a concerned local that knows his stuff. Thank you very much indeed. I noted actually some interesting comments that Michaela related from the Taoiseach. He said there's no doubt that red weather warning issued ahead of Storm Éowyn saved lives. Answering questions from a number of TDs, including Deputy Eamon Scanlon, Micheál Martin said that the death of 20-year-old Caspar Dudek, which we just referenced, after a tree fell in his car during January's storm, was a tragedy. However, he said the situation could have been much worse. Now, I wanted to mention this at that time. I don't think there is anyone that had an issue with the red weather warning as it relates to Storm Éowyn. It was absolutely legit. And in fact, In some cases, it should have been in earlier or later or whatever. The problem is it's the other it's the red warnings, the yellow warnings when we don't have the risk to life that we had with Storm A1. And that is what so there was people like on this programme, myself and others, that went out of my way to emphasise, and I'm not a meteorologist by any stretch, amateur or otherwise, that this was a warning that shouldn't be ignored. And I made posts on Facebook to try and get home the point of view that, right, okay, we get warnings from time to time and we can be a bit frustrated and, oh, well, that's just a regular day in Donegal. But it was clear from many days out that Storm A1 was going to be a very different animal, that this was going to be a warning that we had to heed. So they're up there in Oireachtas meetings talking about whether they were right or wrong to issue red warnings as it relates to Storm A1. That to me is not the conversation. The conversation for me is that what about all the other times? And those warnings need to be brought into the ownership of local authorities. Donegal County Council, in my view, should be using the local knowledge. Gary Martin and his team, I suppose, might be responsible for this. They might need extra resources. It should be the local authorities that issue these warnings, I believe. And that means that they're tailored for us, that we don't have someone in Dublin looking at maps that doesn't understand that, Mallinhead, Fawn and Killybegs are different things. That, I believe local authorities should be in control of those weather warnings with guidance, using the information they have in terms of road temperatures, the sensors that they have in and all of that. And then it's not the problem when we have red warnings than we need them. It's when we need them when we don't have them, or we don't need them when we have them. And that is something I think needs to be resolved. And that's what I'd be up in a committee meeting talking about, not the rights or wrongs or whether that was a red warning or not. Okay, we are going to speak to our next guest on the show, Gary Duffy, after this short break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Don't know if you know Alison Pat, late 40s, couple of kids, been together 17 years. Never married, of course, but that's not a problem. Until something happens, and suddenly words like unmarried, inheritance, and substantial tax bill enter the equation. You never need proper estate planning. Until you do. That's why the experienced team at McElhenney & Associates are here to help. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranola.
Mike Denver in concert with special guest Red Hurley at the Millennium Forum Derry on Saturday, April 5th. Tickets at Millennium Forum box office and also online. That's Mike Denver with guest Red Hurley at the Millennium Forum on Saturday, April 5th.
At Centro, we're bringing a little Naples to Navan, a little Milan to Monkstown and a little Rome to Rosslare with our Italian event. Have an Italian night in at home with delicious sourdough stone-baked chilled pizzas from the Caramico Pizza Company, any two for €12, plus Peroni and Moretti 12 bottle packs, €16 each. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonaher Road, Donegal Town.
Back to the pitch with Brian McCormick Sports. Football boots for all ages. Adidas Copa Pure Pro in real soft leather. It's a must try on. Adidas Predator Pro in soft ground. The perfect boot for extra grip on pitch. Boots for kids in Velcro or lace with all your training essentials, gum shields, shorts and compression tops. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click on bmcsports.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with McElhenney's. Discover trending new styles each week in fashion, footwear, accessories, homeware and more. Visit us to explore the latest arrivals in store or shop online at mcelhenneys.com today.
Okay, the weather forecast is quite simple. Largely dry and sunny, although breezy in a freshening easterly wind. Highest temperatures of 13 to 17 degrees. We're joined on the programme now by Gary Duffy, who very sadly lost Christine McCain in a road traffic collision on the A5, and he's been given an opportunity to speak on his loss and the A5 more generally. Thanks, Gary, for your time. I do appreciate it.
No problem, Greg.
And also, very sadly, your uncle and your great aunt died in the tragedy. 2 aunts and an uncle, and your wife seriously injured. They were all on a minibus coming from a funeral in England. Just unbelievable situation for the whole family to endure, and with the terrible loss of life, Gary.
It's a tragedy, definitely, now, but that's just the reality of people in the West and people in Tyrone and travelling through Tyrone. Like, as you've seen, we were in court yesterday for that A5 hearing, and yesterday was the first day that any court has heard from victims' families. Stories, of people who have died on the road, people who have been injured on the road, and you could see it in the public gallery. The many people, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, sons, daughters, have lost people on the road. It's 57 people have died on this road in the last 18 years since this has all started. First time this road was approved,
and that's it. This has all happened since approval was given to make this very dangerous stretch of road safer. I mean, that is very hard to comprehend, because we don't know if all, or we certainly know some of these lives would not have been lost. That's the cost of the delay.
Well, that is it, and for a small minority to be able to hold this up and hold the government their ransom is beyond belief, really. And I suppose it was put in court yesterday. The biggest miracle is probably that there only has been 57 people who have lost their life. One of the stats that the barrister read out yesterday was there's an accident in the A5 and somebody's injured every 3 days.
Yeah.
And every 3 days for 18 years, and only 57 deaths, that's a miracle in itself.
Mm. And what do you hope comes from this process, Gary? I mean, is it obvious it's just a case of, this road being upgraded?
This road needs to happen. This connects the city of Derry to the city of Dublin. It's one of the most travelled roads in the country, and if you come out of the city of Derry airport and you turn right, you could be stuck behind a tractor or a lorry for 30 miles. The A4 road there, just off the A5 from Ballygoy to Dungannon, there was a stat read in court yesterday, and since that road was upgraded, there's been a 97% decrease in fatalities. Now, 18 years ago, if this road had went ahead, and you look at the stats on all the roads, a 97% decrease. That's some empty seats and houses filled. That's people not grieving, families not broken. It's beyond belief. It really is.
And it does obviously shine a very strong light on the planning process, but also if I were an objector, I would probably struggle to sleep at night knowing that I'm arguably could be part of the reason why people are dying unnecessarily. I'm trying to be careful how I phrase it, but I think you understand the point I'm trying to make.
I guess this is the problem, and if you read the media will tell you that this objection is all about land loss. Now, as I said in court yesterday, out of the objectors, only 2 are losing land across the route that's been approved, and the land that they're losing is minuscule. It's not even 1% of the land that they own. It's not 0.5%. It's not feasible to be objecting to this road due to that land. No land justifies the loss of life. And if you look at between Oma and Ballygoy, there's over 120 exit and entry points. And these aren't slip roads like you would see in a dual carriageway or a motorway. These are middle lanes that people are having to slow down and pull into to cross traffic on one of the busiest roads in the country. The road's not fit for purpose.
And of course, we've been talking about the deaths, and you would know it as much as anyone. There's an awful lot of life-altering injuries and emotional distress caused by collisions that don't necessarily make the headlines either. Unfortunately, with the nature of the collision involving your family, you know all sides of it, the serious injury and the death. But, a lot of the very serious collisions go unreported, yet people have to live with the consequences for the rest of their lives.
Well, this is it. No, you see the headline 57 deaths, but the stats don't show you every other incident, as you
Hundreds.
And not just from physical injuries. Like, people would have jobs and economically damage the cars and, injury, maybe small crashes, like people don't get hurt, but they have money to fork out in cars. Like, you go to Strabane and Omagh, and the two so-called bypasses are the main roads into each town. It's bumper to bumper traffic the whole way, and then you travel up the A5 and you're 30 mile an hour behind a tractor the whole way, and this is the main road to Dublin. It isolates the West. Businesses don't want to come here because there's no infrastructure on the roads. It decreases employment. Everything is just, from every angle that you look at it, the road needs to go ahead.
But we've got sporting organisations, community organisations, chambers of commerce, and so many other vested interests saying, look, this has to go ahead. The consequences of it not going ahead are far greater than any loss of land or any other inconvenience. Gary, we're all different, and we take different things from different experiences. Was you're speaking in the High Court about getting this over the line, or was it important to you that the family members that you lost, that their stories were heard in this setting? As I say, it depends on the type of person, your personality. But what did it mean to you yesterday?
Like yesterday, the barrister represented the families, and he told stories of individuals and family members. It was powerful, but it was harrowing to hear. It's some of the stories and you look like so many of them could have been prevented. If this road went ahead 18 years ago, the many families sitting in that public gallery yesterday, heartbroken. That doesn't happen. And the road doesn't fix everything. People still make errors or misjudge things and all, but if you can reduce the risk of injuries and like collateral damage and stuff like that, it's a no-brainer really. And for a small minority of people, they have the power to hold us up. It's not right.
It's remarkable we're even able to have the conversation with everything that you've just said, Gary. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. And listen, I don't think there's a person listening to this show today across the Northwest that wouldn't be very sympathetic to you, but also in agreement with you in everything that you've said. Thank you for your time.
No problem, Greg. Thanks very much.
Gary, thanks very much indeed. Right, okay. That's Gary Duffy there. He suffered incredible loss. Christine McCain died in that road traffic collision. His uncle and his great aunt also died in the crash. Two aunts and an uncle and his own wife seriously injured in that collision. They were all in that minibus, and you'll remember that awful incident when it happened. They were returning from a funeral in England, and many of those, I don't know, perhaps we couldn't say all, because as Gary pointed, there's always an element of sort of driver behaviour, but you can only drive as safe as you can in the environment. And I've always talked about on this programme 3 factors, the condition of your vehicle, the acts of the driver, but the third one, which is critical in a lot of these collisions and in that and others, is the conditions of the road, and there is an obligation for them to be up to a certain standard as well. Right, some of your comments to wrap up the show. Hi, Greg. I was in America 2 weeks ago and I seen a Volkswagen dealership, a new Volkswagen Tiguan, just over 20 grand. So with Trump's 25% tariffs, it would still be half the price it is here in the EU. So what's going on there? Greg, the last crash in Ireland, Ireland had, you're right, Greg, they did find a way. We, the working public, paid the bondholders for the greed of politicians and bankers. Ironically, we're still paying despite the profits the bank are making. I didn't say they found a way, I said the country found a way. We're all paying for it. What is it, 60-odd thousand per person in debt we are in now, compared to something like 27 at that time. We are, and not as much us, but our children and our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will pay that. My point was, in trying to be optimistic, that, we can show resilience and we can get through. But, of course, it was off our backs, and we take the credit. A caller says, maybe I'm wrong here, but is it not the US consumer who decides whether they buy an American car or a European car or an Asian car, and the same for all other products? Should Donald Trump not be trying to convince the American people to buy American rather than forcing them the land of the free? Yes, but I'll give the BYD example again. Electric vehicles that are produced in China, and they're able to produce them very, very cheaply. And if the European car market imports were unfettered, there wouldn't be a German motor industry, or there wouldn't be a British motor industry. They're out of the EU now. I'm not saying I'm defending the tariffs, because I think the best survive, and I like open economies, but that's the reality. So he has to tariff imports so that people drive American cars, and therefore the factories in America build them, and on and on. Okay, that's where we have to leave it today. Thank you so very much to all of you who listened to the show, those of you who watched the show. It's been fantastic.